All right. We are live. Sorry if the intro's a little messed up. So Blazers just traded for Robert Covington.
Roko.
Blazers end up trading Trevor Ariza, the 16th pick, and a 2021 first-round pick for Robert Covington. Big move for the Blazers. We'll give our diehard, honest opinions here in a second. I want to know, what do you guys think about this trade? I'll go post I wish I could post a poll in the chat, but I don't believe I can. What would you guys grade this trade? Give me your grades in the chat.
You might be able to do it in the comments.
Just give me your grades in the comment section in this chat. I'm curious as to what you guys want to grade this trade. We will give our grades in a second. The Blazers go out and upgrade over Trevor Ariza. It is an upgrade. Robert Covington is the type of elite defender the Blazers need in order to guard LeBron James and guys like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. So it's a defensive upgrade. The Blazers struggled on defense last season. They go out and they make a move for arguably one of the best defensive wings in the entire NBA. Okay? I like the swap of the players. I do not like that we gave up 2 first-round picks in this deal.
Yeah, me either. The 16th pick should have been enough, or a future first, but yeah, not real happy about giving up 2 first, but I mean, we got Roko.
We'll have to wait and see what the protections are on that pick. But I mean, it's just an absolute huge move from the Blazers. We get fireworks. We also had Jrue Holiday just get traded to the Bucks. We'll have to cover that. Stuff just all of a sudden popped off. We were preparing to go live over on Blazers Uprise Live, over on our streaming channel, which we usually go live on Mondays at 9 p.m. And then Eric hits me up with a call while I'm working on a draft profile saying that we just traded for Roko. I don't like the picks. I like the player move. I have mixed feelings on this deal. I grade it probably a C. All right. I like that you guys are excited. I'm happy for a lot of Blazer fans out there because a lot of Blazer fans are excited. Hopefully, the people that love to hate on Neil Olshey won't complain anymore, because what have they been saying? We don't need draft picks. We need a guy like a Robert Covington. Neil Olshey went out and got you your Robert Covington. So hopefully Olshey doesn't get slandered for this. Even though me and Eric aren't super high on the deal, I understand why we went out and did it. It makes our team better. It's an upgrade over Ariza. Ariza might have regressed going into next season considering his age. Yeah, I mean, I like the upgrade. We're a better team. But the picks, man, it's hard. It's hard to deal with. And now I'm not as excited for the draft now that we don't have the 16th pick. That's kind of a bummer. But a first in a couple of seconds I felt like was the proper value. I wonder if Olshey could have done it for a first in a couple seconds. I assume not. But I don't know. It's just
I feel like when we give up picks in a trade, we always give a little too much.
Yeah.
Two picks instead of 1 or something. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to complain until I see the protections. I mean, it could be a situation where we don't convey it next year and then it turns into a second or something, or it goes away. So
shout out Russell Westbrook for the $5 donation, by the way. He said Will Olshey actually made a dope trade. Robert Lovington to PVX. I can't read that. But yeah, I mean,
I have 2 shout outs too. One, my man Grabs texted me and let me know about the trade, so thank you, appreciate it. What's up, man? And then I saw Damani in here. What's up, D?
Oh yes, I saw Damani. Good old Damani, man. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, so Blazers end up going out and getting Robert Covington for Trevor Ariza and 2 first-round picks. We do save a little bit of money in this deal, correct, Eric? So we should be able to sign our 46th pick outright and still stay under the tax if we use, our trade player exception, mid-level exception. I don't want to get too deep into that, but we do save a little bit of money.
So Covington's under contract for 2 more years. He's at 12.138. Ariza was at 12.8. So yeah, a little over 600,000 less for Covington this year than Ariza, and he makes just under 13, 12.975 next year. So we have him locked up for 2 years. He's a lot younger than Ariza, obviously, at 29. So right in his prime. And yeah, he's an elite defender. I really hope he shoots better than he did during the regular season with the Rockets after that trade. But overall, good 3-and-D player, about as good as you could probably hope for in an Ariza trade. Like you mentioned, I don't like giving up the 2 picks, but overall, it's exciting to be talking about a trade, I guess.
Yeah, man, I was hyped to go live with this, and I know you were too, even though we weren't like the biggest fans of the compensation. I don't know, man, like, I wasn't the biggest fans of the compensation, but it's, you know, it's an upgrade at the same time, you know, so, do we know what the protections are on that pick? On that 2021 pick? Because that's a protected first-round pick, and I haven't seen the protections on it.
I'll keep checking Woj, but he's breaking major trades left and
right.
Yeah,
you just had Jrue Holiday get traded to the Bucks. The Bucks are trading 3 future first-round picks, Eric Bledsoe and George Hill for Jrue Holiday. Okay, I think we overpaid a little bit. The Bucks just overpaid a ton. The Bucks just, oh my goodness. Yeah. And I hate that because that's a phenomenal package in return for Jrue Holiday that the Pelicans are getting. And we don't need another team just stacked with picks, you know? And, oh man. So at least we didn't overpay quite to that level. A bunch of picks. Because I think Rocco is as much of an upgrade over Ariza as Jrue Holiday is over Eric Bledsoe. Rocco is probably more of an upgrade over Ariza than Jrue Holiday compared to both Bledsoe and Hill. And we gave up 2 picks. They gave up 3. So that's significant. We just had 2 trades pop off. It's officially the NBA offseason. I hope you guys are ready for more fireworks. Blazers have a full mid-level exception. I mean, like, they're rumored to be looking at Paul Millsap. We'll get into that a little bit later on this stream. But they're going after defenders. They're going after 3-and-D players. Rocco's defense is phenomenal. He's probably the best defensive wing we've had in the Damian Lillard era, because I would put his defense above an Aminu. I would put his defense above a Maurice Harkless. And he's more respected as a 3-point shooter, but his 3-point shooting, I feel like, gets a little bit overrated. Let me look up his stats here. I'll read off his percentages the past couple of seasons, because I do feel like people overrate him a little bit as a 3-point shooter. This past season, Rocco only shot 33.5% from 3. The season before that, he shot 38. The season before that, he shot 37. So we're going to want Rocco to get back to that 37-38% 3-point efficiency.
Just to clarify, in the playoffs, he did shoot 50%. It was 34 out of 68, so 50% insane, in the playoffs is really nice. Just to clarify something Damani asked, he said, I thought you couldn't trade consecutive first-round picks. So this trade won't be official.
You just cut out, Eric. Your mic did. Do you unplug your mic? I'll say what Eric was going to say. I don't know what happened with Eric. This trade won't be official until after the draft, because after the draft we'll draft somebody for Houston, and then we'll trade the rights to that player. So it's not like we're trading a pick 2 years in a row. We'll trade the rights to that player along with our 2021 first. And by the way, this isn't me muting Eric. Eric like unplugged his mic or something. Eric, go into the settings for Skype and check your input, like, because I still can't hear you, bro. I can't hear you, and it's not I don't think it's on my end. So actually, just I'll hang up and call you again. All right. Let me mute. See me and Eric's calls. Let me mute this while I call him. I know some of you guys like listening to the Skype ringtone. My lighting is screwed. See if this fixes it with Eric. By the way, if you just came out from hibernation, if you haven't tuned in with us the past... Eric, you gonna answer, bro? Okay, well... Eric can answer when he wants to, or he can call me back when he wants to. If you guys have been in hibernation and haven't been tuning in with us all off season, welcome back. Welcome back to Blazers Uprise. We got some big things coming. Draft stream will be on on Wednesday. We will stream every pick that happens during the NBA draft. Sadly, we won't have the 16th pick anymore, which is a little bit of a bummer. But we made a move that a lot of you guys like, which is, I'm happy that some Blazer fans are happy. I'm mixed on this. It's an upgrade, but like, what if an all-star becomes available at the trade deadline? And we need that 2021 first to trade for like a legitimate all-star, not like a Robert Covington. That is where kind of my holdup is on this deal. If you guys got questions, hit me up. Type them in chat. All right, I can hear Eric again. Dope. All right. Yeah, that was a first. I don't know what happened with that, Eric, but I think I could hear you now. Talk. Can you hear me? Eric? Eric, can you hear me? Oh, well, I say talk so I could make sure your audio was working. Yeah. Okay, we're good. Okay. Yeah, I was like, all right. That was. Mm-hmm. Oh, got you. Anyway, technical difficulties. I've never had that happen before. I'll unmute you. I just wanted to make sure. I didn't want y'all to like hear that Skype ringtone blare in your headphones. So I was trying to save your ears. So anyway, yeah, I get it. Chat's just gonna tell me a million times. This stream's popping though. So yeah, we'll stream every pick on Wednesday, and we'll stream the first day of free agency on Friday. Those were the first two streams we ever did last year, but that was like a year and a half ago because the whole schedule got screwed up. So very excited for it. Very excited for some of the graphics. So feel free to come say hi during those streams. But yeah, Eric should be unmuted now. Talk, Eric, just so they can hear your beautiful voice, man.
Kevin Reese, draft live stream Wednesday.
So what do you grade this trade, Eric?
I'm right there with the USC. Depending on the protections.
I hope it's like top 22 protected, 23 protected, or something like that, and then it turns into a second. It'll probably be like
lottery protected or top 10 or something.
Yeah, because that's going to be a good
matter
draft.
If we make the playoffs, we should be pretty good next year.
It's just like, I don't know. This kind of feels like we're slightly going all in on a role player. That's kind of been the thing that I've been hesitant towards doing, right? I want to upgrade role players, but it has to be like for the right asset value, so that we can maintain as many assets in the future to potentially push all in on like a legitimate all-star. You know what I mean? So that's where I've kind of been. That's where I'm kind of hesitant on this trade. That's where I have my mixed feelings, because it definitely makes us better. I like that. It's just like, what if an all-star player becomes available and we could make a run for them, but we need that 2021 first-round pick. But we spent it on a role player, a really good role player that plays his role really, really well, but still it's just a role player.
One of the things I'm worried about, too, is the protection on it might prevent trading future picks as well. So,
yeah, because here's the thing. If it's protected, like lottery protected, then if our pick falls in lottery, we could get to keep it. But then it would mean that the backup protections on it might be, if our 2021 first-round pick is lottery protected, then if it falls in the lottery, then we'd have to trade our 2022 first-round pick. And you can't trade picks in back-to-back years. So if it's something like that, then we wouldn't be able to trade another first-round pick until like 2024. We'll wait and see what the protections are. Hopefully we get news on that shortly, and we'll kind of break down what that means in terms of our future assets, our future picks. Yeah. Interesting.
So for me, despite his age, I was a lot higher on Ariza than most people. I felt like, it was only 21 games, but he shot 40% from three, which is, I think, a career high for him. Granted, small sample size, but I thought he fit in really well. It was a shame he couldn't play in the bubble. So I'm guessing what this is they were a little uneasy about having Ariza back on the team, maybe. And so they decided to move him for a little bit of an upgrade, a younger version on two-year deal instead of a 1-year deal. But to your thing about a trade, it does suck not having the 2021 first to trade now. But I think Rocco would have a little bit more value in a trade moving forward too. So it kind of balances out a little bit if we did decide to go in all in for a start, because we just still don't have the contracts to trade.
Yeah,
if something becomes available.
I mean, yeah, that's actually a good point, because the Rockets traded Clint Capella and a first last season to get Rocco, so he does have really high trade value. So honestly, I don't think it hurt. Now that I'm thinking about this a little deeper, I don't think it actually hurts us in terms of making an all-in move at the deadline, since we could likely recoup the value we gave up for him in this trade. Because if you look at last year, Houston gives up Clint Capella and a first. That's pretty equal to like the 16th pick in our 2021 first. You know what I mean? It might actually make it easier, because whoever we took at 16th, if they're not playing, might not have much trade value, where Robert Covington might be able to get a team 2 future firsts if a team gives up what we give up in this deal. I assume there's probably a lot of people going after Robert Covington, which is why we had to give up these 2 first-round picks instead of like a first and 2 seconds. I assume it was Houston basically saying, whichever team offers us an expiring and 2 first-round picks, we'll trade Robert Covington to. And it just happened to be us. Ariza goes back to Houston. We'll see what happens with him. They could potentially move him again and get value for him as well, but he probably doesn't have a ton of value. So, yeah, there's an interesting move. Here's a prediction based off this trade. This trade makes me think that Carmelo Anthony is not going to be back next year. Because
Okay, go ahead.
I think Olshey is pursuing top-notch defenders. I think Olshey is seriously like trying to improve our defense. And Carmelo is not a good defender. He played solid defense in the bubble, but I don't expect that to continue, and he's aging, right? So we just traded, an aging 3-and-D wing for an even better defender and gave up 2 picks in the process. We're rumored to potentially be interested in Paul Millsap, who's a really good defender. I don't expect Carmelo back, because it seems like Olshey is really trying to give Stotts the defensive personnel, where all of a sudden defensive personnel can't be an excuse if we suck on defense. You know what I mean? Like, that's the other thing I like about this is the complaint all year, and it was partially valid, but I felt like it was overstated. The complaint all year was the Blazers don't have the defensive personnel in order to play any sort of defense, in order to be anything but like a bottom 5 defense, right? I thought some of it was just improper game planning, improper scheme usage, that type of stuff. You won't have the personnel excuse if you go out and get like a Robert Covington and a Paul Millsap. We got Covington. We're tied to Millsap. Like I kind of feel like that's the guy Olshey's going to go get in free agency, which I'm cool with that. If those two are our starting forwards and Nurkic is our starting center, and like Dame, I think has become an average defender, we should be like a fringe top 10 defense, personnel wise. Maybe even like 8th to 10th in that range if we have like Dame, CJ, Covington, Millsap, and Nurkic. Because we literally would have 3 like great defenders at their positions. Covington, you could say, is potentially elite. Nurkic, like, opinion varies on his defense, but he's like a really good rim protector. Dame is average. So you get 3 great defenders, an average defender, and a below average defender. What that should be like a 8th to 10th defense, right?
And you got Trent, who was coming on as a defender last year off the bench. Hood's a serviceable defender if he's back and healthy. Collins is a good defender for a big man. There's no excuses. Little's a good defender in my opinion. Held on to him.
Yeah,
we have that's other than CJ and Simons. There's not really many weaknesses defensively.
Yeah, and here's the thing: like, Robert Covington is maybe one of the best defenders that we could go out and he probably is the best defender we could go out and get to put against LeBron, right? Paul Millsap defended AD really well in the Western Conference Finals last season. I don't know like how true this is, but I've seen people say that AD only shot 40% against Paul Millsap in the Western Conference Finals, and otherwise he shot 70%. So if we go out and get Paul Millsap, then I'm happy with Olshey because he's trying to build the team in order to truly contend and beat who we have to beat in order to truly contend, right? You get the guy in Covington to guard LeBron. You get the guy in Millsap to guard Anthony Davis. And the thing is, both those guys can shoot, right? I expect Robert Covington to be back to a 38% three-point shooter. Paul Millsap shot, I forget what he shot last year. Let me look it up. But
43%.
43% last year. 36% the year before, 43% that year. So it's not like it's an Aminu and Harkless situation where they're like 35% three-point shooters at best. You have legitimate three-point shooters that teams have to respect, legitimate floor spacing, right? So, and defensively, we're built to beat that team. That's the type of team I've always said we need to surround Dame with. We need to surround Dame with legitimate 3 and D players. Paul Millsap, Robert Covington would be perfect. Now, we might not get Paul Millsap, but that rumor today, based on what Stotts is doing, I feel like Paul Millsap is a legitimate possibility with the full mid-level exception.
And not having Ariza, having another, people are complaining that, we're going to have 2 36-year-old forwards, so now we get younger 29-year-old Covington, and then you can afford to bring in a Millsap. And the thing is, he doesn't have to give you a lot. Covington can go back between the 3 and 4. People are asking where we think he'll start. I'm assuming at the beginning of the year he'll start at the 3. And if we sign Millsap, he'll start at the 4. If we sign another power forward, obviously they'll probably start. If Collins is fully healthy, he might get a chance to regain his starting spot as well. But I think making this move today, Millsap becomes a lot better option because we're in the mode to go for it now. We traded away 2 firsts. We're not thinking about the future as of today like we were yesterday. And I think that makes it a little less significant of a burden to have an older roster. Just go get a guy who fits in well with your system and will be a seamless transition, will be good for our young guys as a mentor, and just make that happen. You don't have to play him 30 minutes a game. He could only play 20 minutes a game and be perfect in that role, I feel like.
Yeah. You got goosebumps right now? You guys got goosebumps? I got some goosebumps. It's offseason.
It's just exciting to talk.
Yeah.
Because all day I had to hear this, Blazers never make a trade. When are you going to report something about the Blazers load?
And there'd only been 2 trades.
Yeah, of course Olshey's going to sit on his hands and do nothing all summer, and we're going to sign someone for the minimum and not do any other changes to the roster.
That stuff didn't make any sense to me because we made a bunch of moves last offseason. We were kind of hamstrung with those terrible contracts he signed, and you can blame Olshey for that 100%. I do too. But it made it hard for him to make moves. It doesn't necessarily mean that he didn't want to make moves. It just means he kind of tied his own hands in terms of making moves. Then when he actually has some flexibility and those contracts only have 1 year left, he makes a bunch of moves last offseason. So I don't understand why a lot of Blazer fans were going into this offseason Olshey's not going to do anything. He never does anything. There's no chance he does anything. That type of talk didn't make sense. And now all of a sudden, it's still Monday, and we just traded 2 firsts and Trevor Ariza for Robert Covington.
Yep.
So.
And all the people who are saying, don't waste the draft pick on another prospect. We don't need young guys right now. We need veterans or whatever. We got Robert Covington, so
yep.
All those people can be happy. I've been pushing back against a lot of that stuff, so that's why I'm not as happy as a lot of people are. But it is exciting that we're going for it. I like it.
Yep. So if you're just a general NBA fan tuning into this stream just for coverage from Blazer fans on this trade, we just started a general NBA channel. All we've done is draft profiles on that, but I do hope to post 2 videos a week just on general NBA topics, not with a Blazer-centric focus. I will post the link in the comment section, and I'll also post that link in the description of this video. Just let me update it real quick. So if you want to go subscribe to that, we'll give you, I understand if fans of other teams don't want to subscribe to a Blazers channel because they're not Blazer fans, but we do have a general NBA channel if you want to go subscribe to that. Also, Wednesday, we will have a draft live stream with phenomenal graphics, I think, and we will stream every pick in the draft and give our reaction. Me and Eric have been going in hard on studying draft prospects, and we've kind of been nerding out on prospects in this draft. So if you want to watch a draft stream other than like ESPN, come hang out with us, and that'll be fun. We'll also stream the first day of free agency on Friday on this channel as well. So would love to see some of you guys in there and have, I don't know, it's cool to have fans from other teams in this stream, in this comment section, to be able to get their thoughts on not only moves the Blazers do, but moves their own team does, and just to get a feel for everything. So, yeah, man, it's off-season time. I've been super excited for this, been waiting for this. It should have happened five months ago, but now it's here, and it's super jam-packed, and I'm super excited. We should probably cover the Jrue Holiday trade at some point a little bit deeper. I'll be interested in doing that.
Real quick, Tino Paz Hernandez keeps asking about Kelly Oubre. We have no way of getting Kelly Oubre now. We traded for Covington. Ariza was our only piece contract-wise. I mean, I guess we could possibly trade Collins and Hood for him, which I don't think is the right move at this time. So I wouldn't. I think Oubre or anyone making in that range money-wise is completely out of the question now.
Yeah. Oubre is actually a decent long-term piece for OKC. I think they kind of needed like a small forward, power forward type of player. But so where the Blazers go from here? I want to talk about that. Does she know 550 people are watching her right now?
I don't know. Got a lot of people watching you right now.
But here's where they go from here, right? It's basically the same situation we were in to begin with. They have 7 members of the rotation set. They got Dame, CJ, Rocco, Collins, Nurkic is like the presumed starting 5, and then they got a bench lineup where CJ will probably play the point. You'll have Trent, you'll have Hood at the 2 and 3, right? So they need 2 bigs. They could either they could sign. They have the full mid-level exception, so they're going to sign somebody with that, and then they'll either trade for somebody with the trade player exception, or they might use the biannual exception. They could go and get a small forward and potentially start Rocco at the 4th. That is a definite possibility. They could go sign maybe like a Jay Crowder or a Maurice Harkless with a mid-level exception if they don't get Millsap, and they could start like a Harkless or Crowder alongside Rocco at the 3 and the 4, and then Collins would be your backup 4 or 5, and then you'd use whatever else to get another backup 4 or 5, and Collins could play a backup 5 if you get a 4. Collins could play the backup 4 if we get a 5. So that's a position. We could potentially sign a small forward because I think Rocco's a little better suited to play power forward than Ariza was. I think what's more likely is we go out and we get a power forward, a starting power forward, and then we try, say Millsap, all right? Let's just hypothetically say we're at the start free agency, we get Millsap, right? We have a starting lineup of Dame, CJ, Rocco, Millsap, Nurkic. And then off our bench, CJ would play the backup point staggered with Dame. You'd have Trent at the backup 2. You'd have Hood at the backup 3. And you'd have Collins at the backup 4 or 5. You just need to sign another backup 4 or 5 to complete that rotation. And that's a really good roster. People will underrate that roster going into next season because having a guy like Trent and Hood off the bench with Collins is going to take a step forward in production next season. And then, maybe you bring back Melo at that point. I don't know. Or maybe you bring back Whiteside and you play Collins to the backup 4. That's a really good bench as well with a really solid starting lineup that's more well-suited to compete against teams like the Lakers because we actually have people that can defend. Shout out to Connor Martin, $20 dono, man. Appreciate it. He says, I'm just happy Olshey is doing something. And I'm happy, too, because this stream is popping off. This is the most viewers we've ever had. This is a record. Shout out to everybody tuning in right now.
What's up, everyone?
So what do you...
I think, to your point, you said earlier that you didn't think Melo would be back because of this deal. I think not having the pick this year actually opens up a roster spot, so I wouldn't be surprised if we did re-sign Melo. And then, obviously... I'm pretty sure he'd have to accept a bench role. But then you're talking about a bench of, Trent, Hood, Melo, Collins, and CJ is the point. I mean, I think that's pretty solid, even if we didn't re-sign Whiteside or whatever. That's assuming we got a power forward. Mm-hmm. But I think that's pretty solid. And I don't mind Melo coming off the bench. I think he'd be a good scorer now that we got a defensive wing that's a for sure defensive stopper. I think we can afford to maybe bring back a scoring option like Melo, or like your favorite option of a Bielitsa at the 4 as well would make some sense. And you could bring in Millsap and Bielitsa, and then you could just like I said, Millsap doesn't have to play more than like 20 to 24 minutes a game, so you'd have plenty of time for Bielitsa. Collins moved back to the 5. I think it would be good all around.
Yep. Let me give a quick shout out to my mods, because I know they're working hard right now. I don't think they were prepared for this, but shout out to Russell First Round, Exit Westbrook, and Trevin for helping me out in the chat. I have no idea what you mean by
some random Google moderator deleted Kevin Reese's.
What?
It said deleted by Google moderator or something.
Trevin's message got deleted by Google moderator team, and Trevin's my own mod, so I don't know what's happening. I guess Google is stepping in because the stream is popping. I don't know, man. But I don't really... Melo should go to, like, New York or Brooklyn or something like that, right? Like, we need to go all in on defensive players. That's been my feeling. We need to go all in on defensive players, so I like the upgrade for Rocco, and a guy like Millsap would be legit. Defensively.
Just to clarify something, Theo. So Torrey, we have traded player exception for getting Ariza in the first place, and Torrey loves Bielitsa from Sacramento. Mm-hmm. It was rumored that they were talking about not picking up his option for next year. I don't know if that's official or not yet, but that's someone who would fit into that traded player exception. So Torrey's favorite idea is trading, a couple seconds or something to get him from Sacramento. So I don't know if that's completely off the table now or not, but it's still an option. I would
love that. Perfect offseason from now forward would be like 2 second-round picks for Bielitsa. We don't have to trade any player out because we have the traded player exception that can absorb Bielitsa's contract. If Sacramento doesn't care to keep Bielitsa, they get a couple second-round picks and don't have to take back salary. So that is something that's potential, right? And then using the mid-level exception to sign Paul Millsap at this point, which is kind of like what's being rumored. That team would be legit, bro. You'd have Dame, CJ, Rocco, Millsap, Nurkic. A starting 5 that meshes together very, very well. You got 2 defenders to put up against a LeBron and an Anthony Davis. And then off the bench, you'd have 3 guys that shot over 40% from 3 last season with Gary Trent Jr., Rodney Hood, Nemanja Bjelica. And then the backup center would be Zach Collins, who I think would be really good as a backup center next season. I expect him to take a step forward in production. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And CJ running that bench unit, I think would potentially be a top 5 bench unit in the league. Dame has never had a good bench, in my opinion, right? So being able to have a bench that good would be phenomenal. Being able to have legitimate 3-and-D players next to him would be phenomenal. We'd truly get to see what this team could potentially do. It would be the best roster Dame had ever had around him. There would be no more excuse for Stotts not having the personnel in that situation. Shout out to Rip City 1977. He says, "What's up, fellas? Rocco, I'm hyped. Thank you for the donation, man. Good to see some old faces in the stream as well as a bunch of new ones, because my goodness, the view count keeps going up, man. I'm getting kind of nervous. I'm starting to shake, man. This many people? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, shout out to all you guys watching. We will stream, like, I feel like I should plug this again because we keep getting people in here. We're streaming the draft, every single pick. We have legitimate graphics for it. It should be really, really fun. Me and Eric have nerded out on pretty much every draft prospect that'll get drafted this year. We will stream that starting 30 minutes before the draft on Wednesday over on this channel. So I understand if you only want to subscribe for a week just to get our draft stream, and we will also do a free agency stream on Friday. I understand if you just, are interested in those but don't want to subscribe to us long term because we're a Blazers channel and you might be a fan of the other another team, but I really hope some of you guys tune in on Wednesday for that draft stream. Should be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it. Can you stream a quick mock draft of the best players available? Not right now. It's trade season. We will we will focus on that. Yeah. Also,
and now we don't have a pick anymore.
Yeah, it's bro.
Okay, so
exactly, yeah.
I guess some of our videos at 16 don't make sense now, but this is now okay. If Neil wants to trade back up from 46 and get to the lower second round or possibly into the first round and get a guy like Jay Scrubb, I'm fine with that now. I wasn't going to be fine with that if that was our pick at 16. But now it makes a lot more sense if we target a guy like that and acquire him on draft night versus wasting a 16th pick on it.
Yep. Shout out to Apples for the $8. I think that's Australian currency. I don't know. I don't know what you guys call your currency. Ben Hewitt, help me out, man. But he says, "Hey, I'm really excited for Rocco and the potential signing of Paul Millsap." Yeah, I mean that would be a good offseason. We'd be a better team. That'd be fun to watch. Let's see if we can hit 1K, bro. I want to hit 1K. We're close. Follow us on Twitter, by the way. I'll be done plugging things in a second. If you don't follow us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter. I'm at Tory Jones YT. I'll put it in the comments section. There should be a link in the description. I tweet about all things NBA. I'm pretty much unfiltered. Just say what's on my mind. Eric is at Hoopsjock. That should also be in the description. So if you guys want to give us a follow, we'd greatly appreciate it. Yeah. So. We'll take questions in the chat. It might be hard to read them, but if you guys have legitimate questions, the chat has never moved this fast. But I'm trying to read.
Discord link would be good too, probably.
Discord link for our Discord.
And I don't know how comfortable you feel shouting out the website, but.
Oh yeah, we're dropping a website in the next couple days. Just focused on Blazers content. We'll have writers and all that, so it's legit. Let me post the Discord link, and then we'll be done plugging stuff. We'll take your guys' questions. Feel free to just answer a question right now while I plug this, Eric.
Well, I'll get into the Jrue Holiday trade maybe.
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, well, shout out to Jack M, $3 donation. He says, "Any thoughts with the 46th pick? Love the stream." So yeah, now it's kind of just relax and see what falls to you, I guess. Like I said, I wouldn't have a huge problem if Olshey targets a guy that slips and moves up to get him. We're pretty deep. I mean, assuming we sign a forward or a center in free agency or retain Whiteside, I guess, is still an option. We don't really have a pressing need at any one position, so that's a good place to be in. I feel like you just take whoever your best rated player on the board is. You don't really have to worry about if they have a need or a path to playing time or whatever. I'm going to be really disappointed if at 16 a guy like Sadiq Bey is on the board and he turns out to be a star. But other than that, can't really be too upset with this trade.
Yeah, shout out Kyle Wilson for the $5 dono. He says, Portland trade Anthony Simons at number 46 for the 28th pick. The Lakers don't have the 28th pick anymore. They traded that to OKC in the Dennis Schroeder trade, but I wouldn't trade Anthony in 46 for the 28th pick to take Jake Scrub. Yeah. I'd rather have Anthony Simons than Jay Scrub, straight up. Westbrook, shout out Westbrook, $2 donation. He says, how does it feel to be famous? Bro, I shouted you out. You're famous too, bro. So you tell me how it feels. Shout out for Kevin Reese. He says the People's Mix. Congrats, GOAT. Thanks for the donation, man. Canadian, $69.99. Appreciate the love, bro.
Wait, so that really was People's Mix?
Was it? Kevin Reese?
That was a joke before, but I don't know.
No, I don't know. But it's Canadian dollars, so I don't know. Anyway, bro, too much is happening right now. I should have.
Shout out to Jose who says Blazers are ass.
I didn't even mean to show that.
That's really insightful.
I can't keep up, bro. So shout out to my mods, man. And a new. We can't pull out the inside jokes, bro. Only like 50 people in this stream will get them. But yeah, so. Oh, dude, I can't even keep up with chat. Ibaka, Grant, or Millsap? That's a good question from Rip City 1977. I think the most realistic is Millsap because I think Ibaka and Grant will make more than the mid-level exception. I think both will go back to their respective teams. I think the Raptors keep Ibaka. I think the Nuggets keep Grant. So Millsap is the most realistic. In terms of who I'd rather have the most, that's tough. Probably Ibaka. And then, it's a toss-up between Grant and Millsap. I'm kind of curious Nuggets fans who they'd rather have for next season just alone. Long term obviously you'd rather have Grant, he's younger, and Paul Millsap is aging, but I'm curious who they'd rather have just for next season. I assume it'd probably be Grant. Do we just hit 1K? Let's go. Milestone. I didn't think we were gonna hit it this early into the channel's life. My goodness.
Here's my thing on that question. My first phone call would be to Ibaka, and I would be like, hey, I know you're worth more than the full mid-level exception, but we feel like this is the absolute perfect spot for you, and we need you to help take our team into contention. He'd probably say no, but at least you tried. I feel like Jeremy Grant, especially now that we traded Ariza, we don't have that contract to do a sign and trade possible. I hate the word sign and trade if you've ever listened to me before, but so sign and trade is out of the question now. We're not going to trade Covington for Jeremy Grant. That doesn't make any sense. So that's out of the question because he just gave up $9.3 million, and the most we can offer him is $9.258, so like right around $9.3 million. He didn't opt out of a $9.3 million contract with the Nuggets to sign with us for $9.3 million. If he's going to sign with anyone for that amount of money, it's going to be like the Heat or the Lakers or the Clippers or someone like that. Yeah. So Grant's completely off the table now, in my opinion. I would definitely call him and just offer him the contract because, I mean, if we got Grant and Covington as our forwards, that's like a supersized Harkless and Aminu.
Yeah, better shooters too, like better versions of them. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe not as good rebounding, but overall better. So yeah, Millsap's right there in that next tier where like you have to call those guys. And if you can get one of those guys in the next tier, Millsap, I'm trying to think of who else would be in that tier, but if you can pull a Millsap in the Blazers position with free agency history, stuff like that, I feel like that's a win regardless of his age. And maybe a slight decline in the playoffs, even though his regular season numbers were great last year. You don't know if maybe that just had something to do with the bubble or whatever. But definitely going to see some decline on Millsap over the next couple of years. But on a 1 or 2 year deal, I think that's a really good fit for the Blazers and about as good as we could realistically hope for.
Yep. Shout out to Apples for the $3 Australian currency. That's just what I'm going to call it. I don't know what it's called. It's like, I hate butchering currencies. I just don't know. I need to like study that. But shout out for the $3 donation from Apples. Should we target Gallinari in free agency? That would be interesting. I'm kind of down with just going all in on like 3-and-D guys and just trying to get as good of defensive personnel as possible, and Gallinari doesn't really fit that, but offensively he's better than Ibaka, Grant, and Millsap, so I'd be cool with a Gallinari Gallinari signing, but I think Olshey is really trying to go all in on defensive personnel this offseason. Shout out Austin Wack, $2 donation. He says, "What's up, fellas? Who is a cheap center?" For the MLE, like how cheap we talking about here? Like Nerlens Noel would be interesting as a backup center. Shout out $3 donation from Harvey Grant. He says, "Great stream, lads. We got a lot of Australian currency up in here. That's cool, man. Thanks for the donation. Appreciate it."
If that's even what it is, you're probably
watch it. It's like Austrian. Yeah, man. Like, shout out. We got 1,000 viewers. This is surreal, bro. Like, I keep gaining energy the more viewers we get. I feel like this might get dangerous for my health if we keep going up here, because oh man,
this aren't necessarily cheap, but I mean, if you can't get a Millsap, you go after like a Baines or a Favors or someone like that. Like there's plenty of cheap options for center this offseason, and if you can't get any of those guys, I mean, maybe like the biennial exception for a guy like Robin Lopez and bring him back. He's a serviceable backup big man. And worst case scenario, you could always re-sign Whiteside, I guess, because we have his rights. So, and I don't think he's going to get a bunch of offers right as the clock hits 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday. So I have a feeling we're going to have the option to bring Whiteside back for a fairly discounted rate of under $10 million, and it's just going to be a matter of whether we want to bring it back or not.
Yep. Shout out Isaac Thomas, $2 donation. He's jokingly saying trade CJ for Aaron Gordon. Yeah, that would be disgustingly bad. I would not be a fan of that. No thank you to Aaron Gordon. We need guys that can shoot, and we need guys that can defend. Kevin Reese, $4 donation, says unbanned. You're not banned because you're posting. I don't get it. Shout out Rip City 1977, $10 donation. He says, "Truly happy for y'all, man. You do it the right way, and you see the hard work paying off. Excited for the season and the new lineup potential." Thank you, man. Appreciate your support, bro. I put in the work for you guys, and it's awesome just to have a stream pop off. I was expecting the stream to like 50 people tonight over on our second streaming channel and just chill. I didn't expect to be streaming over here talking about a Roko trade to 1,000. That's insane. Yeah, but the Milwaukee trade. Let's talk Milwaukee. Let's talk the Bucks trade for Jrue Holiday. That's an overpay. I don't really understand the logic there, right? Like, you need guys that can play with the ball in their hands and play off the ball, play off of a guy like Giannis. I don't really think Jrue Holiday kind of fits that bill. Like, he can score for sure, but he's an inconsistent three-point shooter. Kind of a mediocre three-point shooter. So playing off the ball off Giannis might not have like great spacing. Eric Bledsoe wasn't a good three-point shooter necessarily either. I don't know what he shot last year, but it's just like Bledsoe and Jrue Holiday are kind of similar players. Holiday's a little bit better, but not that much better to justify giving up George Hill, who was phenomenal last season, who shot like almost 50% from three. He was phenomenal for them, and 3 first-round picks. I don't really understand that. That doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess George Hill's only 34. I thought he was a little older than that, but I think they just felt like they needed to get an on move. It's kind of surprising that they didn't even inquire about Chris Paul before he was traded to Phoenix, because I think he would have been a little better fit, and you would have had to give up another player because the contracts wouldn't have matched up as well. But if you're going to give up 3 firsts, I think I'd rather have Chris Paul on that roster than Jrue Holiday. It's close, but I don't know. Having Jrue Holiday, Chris Middleton, who's a great defender, and Giannis, who was Defensive Player of the Year last year, maybe not deservingly so, but that's 3 like lockdown defenders. They're going to be pretty tough to score on. I have a feeling this trade was made in preparation of if Brooklyn pulls off the Houston Rocket Harden trade.
Yeah,
they're going to need to be able to stop them. That'll be an interesting battle of defense.
Oh, that would be great basketball to watch.
But I think they basically just had to make a big move to show Giannis that they're committed towards him still. Jrue, for all accounts, is like a great guy, tremendously respected. So is Chris Paul for the most part. But I think he's the kind of guy who will get along with Giannis really well, and I think they'll probably keep Giannis because of that. I still feel like they need to make some other moves to shore up their roster around those 3, but I can see why they did it. And like we're talking about with the Blazers picks not being very good, as long as we have the type of season we thought we would next year, the Bucks picks are going to be at the end of the first round, and as long as they keep Giannis. If they lose Giannis next year and are really crappy, we'll have to see what the protections are on some of those picks. But overall, I don't really mind the overpay in their position. They're obviously in win now mode, just like we are. So,
Okay. We've kind of talked about the potential of swapping a CJ McCollum for Chris Middleton, maybe giving up a pick. That will be a lot harder, or maybe giving up like a young player like Zach Collins and whatnot to make that happen. Would a trade like that make more or less sense for the Bucks now that they got Jrue Holiday?
I was trying to decide that because they have a defensive guard. Middleton, I feel like, this is the problem from if you want that trade to happen. Middleton fits in pretty much any offense. So it's not like he can't play with Jrue and Giannis because like he's a good spot-up shooter, like plus 40% from his career. So I think Jrue is a little better shot creator than Bledsoe or George Hill was, even if he doesn't have quite the shooting numbers that George Hill had. So I feel like they got a little bit of creation with that trade, so they might not need CJ as much.
Well, they're going after another creator, supposedly, according to Kevin O'Connor. He tweeted out 9 minutes ago. He says, sources, the Bucks will pursue a sign-and trade for Kings restricted free agent Bogdanovich. He'd be another huge addition following the addition of Jrue Holiday. The Hawks will also pursue Bogdanovich, but the Bucks can sell him on competing for a championship with Giannis. That would be like some more shot creation, and he's an underrated player, and that would be interesting. I don't know exactly what they'd give up for him in order to match his salary, because they'd probably have to sign him for at least $15 million a year in order to pry him from the Kings. The Kings have been said to want to keep him.
Future picks now.
Yeah, so I assume it'd be like DiVincenzo is probably their best trade asset left, or I don't know. I don't know how they would pull that off. That's very interesting. I don't know how they would necessarily pull that off.
The only thing I can think of is if the Kings just get cheap and don't want to re-sign him, because they have his full rights to match any offers as long as they offer him a qualifying offer. So unless the Kings for some reason just let Bogdanovich walk for no compensation, you're right that I find it hard to believe they could come up with enough assets, and I find it hard to believe that the Kings wouldn't just re-sign him for $15 million instead of trading him away as well.
Yeah, I think Milwaukee would have to overpay Bogdanovich in order to get the Kings to be like, we don't really want him, so we'll take something back. I just don't know exactly how they'd make that happen.
It's really hard to do that when you don't have salary cap, because it's not like the Brooklyn Nets with Alvin Crabbe and Otto Porter Jr. and stuff, like just massively overpaying and hoping that the other team doesn't match, because they can't do that trade without the Kings cooperating with a sign and trade. So
yeah, Nolan says CJ for Drummond and Kevin Porter Jr. The Blazers would never even consider that. We have Nurkic and Drummond can't play together. That trade doesn't make sense for us. Would rather have CJ if I was starting from scratch, let alone if like we already have an entrenched center, so we don't need Drummond. Yeah, the trades I think are going to be crazier than we expect to go into this offseason. I was kind of expecting a quiet offseason, but it's already started crazy on Monday. We'll see what happens. We will break down everything on our live streams. If you're just joining us, we've plugged this before, but we will stream the draft on Wednesday. We will stream all 60 picks over here on this channel. So if you're interested in that, definitely subscribe. We will break down every pick. Me and Eric are very knowledgeable about the players in this draft. We've been doing draft profiles on a number of players, and we've done a lot of research on these guys. So if you want good breakdown, a fun stream, engaging stream, I'm very excited for Wednesday and that draft stream, even though the Blazers just gave up their first round pick. So definitely tune in for that. And then Friday we'll stream the first day of free agency, and we'll focus on the Blazers a little bit more than other teams, but we will focus on the entire NBA, kind of like we're doing right now. We're talking about Milwaukee. We're talking about Jrue Holiday. We're talking about Bogdanovich and that type of situation. Me and Eric are nerds. If this is your first introduction to us, we are the type of people to study the CBA, to know all the cap rules, trade rules, that type of thing. So we have that on lock for you guys. So I hope to see some of you around. Shout out to let me just get this shout out real quick. Shout out to Sam for the $5 donation. He says, "Do you believe the Blazers can beat the Nuggets in the playoffs again? I believe the Blazers are underrated and a dark horse team in the West next year. I think they can. We have to wait and see on what they do in free agency." And shout out to Apples for another $3 donation. Where do we play Rocco, 3 or the 4? It depends on if we sign a 3 or a 4 in free agency. If we sign a 4, Rocco plays the 3. If we sign a 3, Rocco plays the 4. Anyway, Eric, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that, just to give you a little insight on how nerdy I am, I raged to Tori about a rule change about aggregating salaries and trades and stuff like that earlier. So
yeah, this man's a nerd.
I guess normally when you make a trade, like the Lakers traded for, or allegedly are going to trade Danny Green and the 28th pick for Dennis Schroeder. And usually when you make a trade like that, for 60 days, you could not take Danny Green's salary and combine it with other salary to bring in a more expensive player, and vice versa. For the Lakers, they wouldn't be able to trade Schroeder along with Kuzma and KCP and those kind of guys to get a star player back. So I was actually thinking, even though in a vacuum trading Danny Green and the 28th pick for Dennis Schroeder is a really good trade, I was thinking it actually kind of hurts the Lakers, because now they don't have the salary to make a bigger trade, and I don't feel like Dennis Schroeder is he's a good player, but in their system that fit with LeBron and AD is kind of weird. So I was like, okay, so that makes it so they can't really get a lot better than that. That's about as good as they can do this summer since they traded him. But since the season is condensed, they changed the rule, so it's only 2 weeks until you can aggregate salaries again. So the Lakers could turn around again and combine Schroeder if they find a bigger trade for a star. They don't have, luckily, the assets like first-round picks and stuff. But if I heard today that teams are in love with Kyle Kuzma and still intrigued by his upside. Which
you have to wonder if that's his his agent
insane.
Talking him up, or if that's truly stuff coming from other teams. Because here's the thing: you'll get legitimate rumors and you'll get stuff that is like gassed up by agents to try and increase a player's trade value or try and like control a narrative or that type of thing. So it's kind of difficult to sort through like what's legit, what are legitimate rumors, and what is an agent talking on behalf of a player trying to make it sound like teams feel a certain way about a player when they actually don't. Like the rumor mill is always churning this time, and some of it's legit, some of it's not. Some of it's from guys you can trust, some of it's not. You know, there's a number of guys out there that you can't really trust. I trust Woj. I can't talk. I trust Woj. I trust Shams. Other than that, like Mark Stein is solid. Chris Haynes is good. You know, those guys I trust the most. Everything else I take with a grain of salt from every other reporter that breaks stuff on Twitter and whatnot.
TRX Killer, are you a Houston fan?
Yeah, how do Houston fans feel about this trade? If there's any Houston fans in here, I don't even want to trash talk y'all, man. Like y'all don't even trash talk us.
He's talking crap to us, but like
I'm curious how they feel about this trade, though.
Yeah, the thing is, this pretty much for sure means they're blowing it up, right?
Yeah, I assume Harden is gone. I mean, like, to get 2 first-round picks, including the 16th pick back for Robert Covington, that's a solid haul for them. I think this is a definite win for Houston. They may be able to get a couple second-round picks for Trevor Ariza as well. So, it's probably really sad. As Rocket fans, United TV said, I loved Rocco, and it's really sad because Harden is out. I bet it's tough for Rocket fans. It's always tough going from a team that's like been on the brink of contention, was 1 game away from the NBA Finals and potentially a championship, but we're missing Chris Paul in Game 7. It's really tough to go from there on the brink, knocking on the door, to like, oh, all of a sudden, like, we got to blow it up. Harden doesn't want to be here. Our best player doesn't want to be here. Westbrook doesn't want to be here. And that experiment failed. And now Rocco, who's a player that has played there twice now. He played there early in his career before he got to Philadelphia. And now he played there this past season. Now Rocco's gone. Like, you know, I feel for Houston Rockets fans because it's always tough going from that to rebuild mode. But long term, I think it is the right move in order for them to truly contend.
And for the Rockets fans that are talking smack, let me just say this. You traded a crap load of stuff for Russell Westbrook. That trade blew up in your face. You almost lost to the team you got him from and gave up picks to get him from in the first round, and then you lost in the same amount of games we lost due to the Lakers. So don't try to act like you were some like great franchise or some crap.
People
like
just
that.
trolling, man. People just trolling. And I definitely feel bad for the Houston Rockets fans that aren't here talking trash to us. You know what I mean? But yeah,
all you other Houston Rockets fans, I do feel bad, but that fan base talks a lot of crap too.
Yeah, I mean, our fan base does too. You know, I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to play nice here, Eric. Shout out to Sam $2 Dono. He says, "Do you think Harden, Kyrie, and Durant will work?" Probably. It's just so much talent there. I don't think Harden gets traded to Brooklyn though. I think he wants to get traded to Brooklyn. I don't think it happens. I think somebody will give up more than what Brooklyn could give up for him.
They don't have. I mean, Harden doesn't have a no trade clause, so
yeah, they can trade him wherever he wants.
He's under contract for a couple more years, so like, they don't have to play nice with him. I mean, I'm sure Harden wants to be traded to whatever team he wants to go to, but that doesn't mean he has to. I kind of want him to go to Philly.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Him and Embiid would be interesting together.
Simmons, because it kind of keeps the balance of the league and like from getting tilted too far one way, and then it also like Simmons with his own team. You know, it's kind of interesting. I don't think they'd be good enough to make the playoffs, but it would be kind of exciting for the Rockets to have a younger player to build around, despite not having a lot of picks. I mean, I guess they got 2 today, but you can't really rebuild properly when you don't have your own picks to be bad with. So that's going to be a problem for them. But I kind of like that move just from like a balance standpoint for the NBA. And I don't think it'd be guaranteed that Embiid and Harden are like great together, but it would be fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I want him in the Eastern Conference, right? The Western Conference is just always better in the Eastern Conference. I don't want the West to get better this year. Phoenix got better. Phoenix will probably make the playoffs. I'm not the biggest fan of the Chris Paul trade because I think like it doesn't increase their chances of winning a championship in the next 10 years. Because you're kind of like sacrificing the future to win now, but I don't think they're good enough to contend even with Chris Paul. So I'm not a huge fan of that Suns trade, but they will be better next season. Will probably make the playoffs. They're going to replace OKC. OKC is going to be trash. And everybody said OKC was going to be trash going into last season. I was one of the few people saying like they'll probably still make the playoffs. One of the very first like streams, podcasts me and Eric did together, I said, everybody's sleeping on OKC. They still have a lot of good talent, and look what happened. OKC made the playoffs. They're actually going to be trash next year, right? Houston is probably going to get replaced as well. You got the Warriors and the Suns stepping in for those two teams. I don't want it to be something where, like, Harden gets traded to a Western Conference team, and all of a sudden you got 9 legitimate playoff teams with 8 spots. You know what I mean? They will have the play-in. Like, so making it into the 6th seed is much more important than like the 7th seed. You know what I mean? Like there's kind of a big gap there that wasn't before because I assume they're going to have that play-in. I'm not going to talk about that now, but that would make for a great play-in. That's just a whole nother thing. So things are crazy right now just in terms of the way NBA is setting up next season. Who knows what the schedule will look like? Is it going to look like a baseball schedule? How condensed is it going to be? And then these trades are going to pop off. This draft is going to be extremely interesting. Yeah, I'm just excited for this offseason. I was excited for something like this to happen. Even if I wasn't like a huge fan of the trade, which I'm still kind of just it's still like exciting. And just NBA offseason is the best offseason at any sport in the entire world. So this is just more proof of it. And it's fun to be on social media, and it's fun to have a stream to be able to talk about it with everybody.
Remember that night last year, Kawhi signs with the Clippers and Paul George gets traded, and then there's an earthquake at Summer League during Zion's game. And like,
yeah, man, like the NBA is just crazy, like, man.
But that was like spread out, like know, that was several days into free agency before Kawhi made the decision. So I feel like this is just going to be bananas every day. You're going to be like bam, 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 bam. I didn't expect a lot of player movement this offseason just because of it being so short and teams not having a lot of time to like prepare. So I thought a lot of teams would value cohesion. It does make sense for like OKC to trade a Chris Paul and maximize his value right now. But these other trades like Houston blowing it up, like that's out of left field. If you would have told me that like a few weeks ago.
What's my reaction to the Roca trade 1 through 10? Shout out Rip City 1977 for the $5 donation. Everybody grade it 1 through 10. I'm curious to see your grades. Grade it for the Blazers. And then maybe I'll ask you in a little bit to grade it for the Rockets 1 through 10 because I'm kind of curious. You know, I would grade it a 6 or a 7.
I was going to say 6, yeah.
Yeah, like a 6.5. It's just giving up those 2 picks hurts. We need to see the protection on the 2021 first. But like in terms of like next, just making the team better. Actually, you know what? Considering how good Roko's trade value is, and if like we do have an all-in move presentable, we should be able to recoup those 2 first, considering like what he got traded for last season. I'm actually going to go 8. I'm actually going to go 8 on it. Maybe even a little higher. Because that's the thing. It's just like, I didn't want to go all in and like lock our roster in for a role player, no matter how good the role player. Like, I always want to keep that avenue to add another star level, like legitimate all-star to the team. I don't think that path is any more closed, actually. Like, you would think, looking at the first-round picks, like, dang, we lost our 16th pick and we lost our 2021 first-round pick. Like, that hurts, but Roko, if we trade for a star, we could probably trade Roko to a third team and get back like a couple picks that we could trade to the team trading us the star, if that makes sense.
Like the Timberwolves did last year.
Yeah.
Getting a couple picks and then,
Yeah, so
I don't think you mentioned this, but XX Birdie, XX on YT had a $2 donation, says the Warriors.
My bad if I missed
James
it.
Wiseman.
Wiseman would be perfect for the Warriors, I agree. Wiseman is actually, I had Edwards number 1 on my board and Wiseman number 2. Now Wiseman is number 1. I've swapped them. Wiseman is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Wiseman's underrated right now, man. He's legit. Like, I don't know why people were sleeping on him. Like, he's absolutely legit, and I think he'll be skilled and be able to pretty much do it all. He kind of reminds me a little bit of AD, just the way that guy moves and like just watching some of his workouts, the way he can handle the ball, like he's gonna be legit. People are sleeping on him just because he didn't really play much last season. I'm high on Whiteside, or not Whiteside. I'm high on Wiseman. Whiteside. Yeah, you guys messing me up, chat. James is a Wiseman. I don't know what that means, Captain. Rocco won't be asked to play center, so he'll play better. I agree.
That's true.
Anyway, let me plug this real quick because we keep having a bunch of people like cycle through here. This is our most viewed stream or video we've ever had. We have a general NBA channel if you guys are interested. There is a link in the description of this video. I'll also post a link in the chat. We've done draft profiles on there, but I want to do at least 2 videos a week during the season, just covering general NBA content, and maybe stream every now and then in that type of stuff. So if you're interested in our general NBA channel, the link is there in the comments section, and it's also in the description. And we will also be live streaming the draft and the first day of free agency on Wednesday and Friday. So subscribe to this channel if you're interested in that. We'll obviously focus on the entire NBA. Even if you plan on unsubscribing afterwards because you don't want to follow a Blazers fan channel because you're a fan of a different team, that's completely fine. I just hope to see a lot of people in here for the draft stream and the free agency stream because I'm super excited for that.
And if you do want to study really hard for the draft, if maybe not Portland fans now, but all you other NBA fans, check out our draft profiles if you want to get an idea of what the prospects are.
We've been dropping draft profiles as well. Those have been fun. Now my schedule for releasing those was kind of messed up because I was gonna work on those before. I was gonna work on those tonight, and then this trade happened in the middle of me working on those. So throw those aside and cover this because this is huge.
CJ Martin, sorry man. He says, please tell me this is a joke. What are my Rockets doing? Looks like they're blowing it up, man.
Hey, man, that's good value, though, for the Rockets to get for Rocco. To get 2 first-round picks like that is legit. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they take 16th. I feel like the Rockets haven't had a first-round pick in forever, but it's legitimate. Let's talk about this. We haven't really talked about this. I wonder what New Orleans is going to do now that they still got Lonzo, and they just added Eric Bledsoe and George Hill.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's interesting. George Hill, I'd love as a third guard, but we don't really have
a way to get him. Yeah, so that's the problem.
Yeah, we're not gonna make a play on any of those guys, but I assume they'll trade Bledsoe. He doesn't really fit what they need. George Hill would be a good backup point next to Lonzo, and they could play together, and George Hill can play off the ball and shoot really well, so he could be a good fit for that team, but Bledsoe is kind of a weird fit, so I assume Bledsoe will be on the move. I wonder what team would potentially trade for Bledsoe.
I don't know, but I just saw, I didn't see this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks also gave up 2 pick swaps in the deal.
On top of 3 future firsts?
Yes. Holy crap. That's a massive overpay. Wow.
Why?
That trade got worse.
Why did they need to do that? Were the Pelicans really going to get more than that?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe
I can't complain about giving 2 picks up for Rocco if they're giving up 3 picks and 2 pick swaps on top of that, and Eric Bledsoe and George Hill for Jrue Holiday. I don't know, man.
Holy crap! Chat's going so fast I can't even read a single message.
I know, man. I've been trying, bro. Yeah, that's a ton to give up for Jrue Holiday. Yeah, they're tripping, man, and they have to be protected though, heavily protected. Because if Giannis leaves, they're not gonna be good.
Well, depending on what it is, you can't really protect them too much, but because trading 3 picks,
mm-hmm.
If there's protections, it would run out of years you could have it. So unless it's worded weird, I don't see how they could have too much protection.
Did they have any other teams future first? I can't remember. Indiana's?
They have Indiana's from this year, which is the 20-something pick. But
did they give up their pick this year? Because they could do their pick this year, their 2021 pick, and just make the trade happen after the draft, and a 2024 pick, and maybe do a pick swap in 2023, 2025 or something like that.
Tankathon already has it going to New Orleans, so yeah, they must
Okay.
have given up the 24th pick this year. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I want more trades to happen, man. That's why I'm excited for the draft stream because we'll have a bunch of trades and we'll try and go live like 30 minutes before. We might go live a little bit earlier if like a big trade happens. Of course, if a big Blazers trade happens, we'll go live just like we did tonight. Yeah,
We'll have a stream tomorrow night too, right?
yeah, we'll stream over on our second streaming channel. Link in the description. That's a more chill stream. But I wonder what's next. Like what players next? Jrue Holiday was a big domino to fall.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Covington wasn't a guy people really expect to be on the trade market until the stuff about Houston started coming out.
It'll be interesting to see between OKC now with Ricky Rubio and the Pelicans with Eric Bledsoe, which team can get more value and be the first to find a team that needs a point guard and give the best offer to them.
Yep. What are the odds you think James Harden gets traded? This trade signals that they're probably going to trade him.
Yeah, before this trade, I was thinking less than probably 25%. Now, yeah, I'm thinking it's more like 75%.
Yeah, I probably go 80. I think it's very likely. Because you don't make this move unless you're like completely tearing it down, I feel like. Unless they think like, oh, Ariza can almost be just as good as Covington and we get 2 picks. Like I don't know. It seems very likely. So Westbrook and Harden, it's going to be interesting to see where those two go.
Oh, if Harden does get traded to Brooklyn, what are your thoughts on that?
That would be a bad trade for Houston. They can get more than what Brooklyn can give them. I'm not super high on LeVert, and other than that, like Dinwiddie's in his prime. They don't really need him if they're rebuilding, and I think Dinwiddie's a little overrated. That Brooklyn won't have any good picks, so you're basically just trading Harden for LeVert. Like I don't think that's enough. They need like a legitimate blue chip young prospect at least, or at least a very like high pick. Brooklyn wouldn't give them either of those. And I think they need a high pick either this year or in the future and a blue chip prospect in order to trade James Harden. A blue chip prospect being like I don't know if you have any names off the top of your head, but just somebody better long term than like a LeVert. So
yeah, they don't have a lot of
Jared
like
Allen would be a good piece to throw in.
Yeah,
I think they can get more. It's James Harden. It's a borderline top 5 player in the league.
That's what I was saying. I'd much rather get a Ben Simmons and
that would be a blue chip prospect.
I'm not super high on Simmons, but like at least that's a guy you can definitely rebuild around. And
yeah. I mean, the other picks wouldn't be good, but like I'd rather have Ben Simmons than LeVert. And all the other stuff thrown into the trade for Brooklyn, it just isn't enough to like make up that gap. So I think Harden is more likely to go to Philly, in my opinion.
You got Morey there too.
You got. That's right. Would Morey want him in Philly?
I'm pretty sure that was the first thing he did was call Houston and ask if he was available.
Wow, dude, Morey with chess moves. He left them to go to Philadelphia, let them fall apart, and now he's going to trade for James Harden. Morey's out here playing chess, bro.
I'll say this for the record. That guy's a dirtbag for leaving the franchise the way he did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like if Harden forces his way to the Nets, I feel like that's kind of a pansy move.
I don't think so, bro. That team is dysfunctional, and the moves they made is dysfunctional. The trade for Westbrook, like, obviously didn't work out.
I'm talking about specifically only wanting to, like, if he says he won't show up to any team but the Nets.
If he holds out
his way to there, and then
he shouldn't hold out. Like, if he gets traded to Philly, man, go win a championship with Embiid. You got 2 like potentially top 10 players. You got a top 10 player next to you that actually can fit with you, not like a guy like Westbrook. Like, go play with Philly if you get traded there. There's another number of other teams where it's like just. Yeah, like it shouldn't be something where like he wouldn't play if he only went to Brooklyn, but I don't expect him to do that. I don't expect it to go quite like that.
Well, there were rumors that he listed Brooklyn as his only trade destination or something, but I said, he doesn't have a trade.
How many years left on his contract does he have?
I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, because I'm curious.
I know he turned down $100 million exception for 2 years today, so
Yeah.
$50 million a year.
Yeah, that's a ton of money to turn down, man.
He has a player option for 2022 at $47.36 million.
Okay, so whatever team trades
he's under
for him,
contract for 2 years for sure.
yeah, whatever team trades for him will have him for 2 years. So it's not like he can really force his way to another team. If he was only had 1 year left, he would have more control. But
he does have a 15% trade kicker. So
he gets
$41 million. That's pretty steep.
Yeah, so if he gets traded, his contract increases by 15%, basically.
Yeah,
so that's insane.
I guess he could say he'd only waive that trade kicker, and then teams might have a tough time matching the salary.
Yeah, but when you're making a move that big, like, yeah,
I guess it wouldn't matter too much. But
Australia's back online. Did Australia go offline? Yo, let's put this troll in timeout. Yeah. Okay. Kevin Cruz, Wesley Matthews, Laker guys, great news.
What? Okay, so
what?
Yeah, Scalabrini, you don't have to spam, but you don't have to put Scalabrini in timeout. He's just telling people to like the stream. So.
Oh, did they put him in timeout for saying like the stream?
It said Westbrook did.
Oh, yeah. Don't spam. But also, he's trying to support us. Westbrook's imposter right now. So I'm hoping.
And Carnage, we get it. Harden to Philly for some printers and chairs. You said that like 18 times. Like we get it. That's not going to happen. So yeah, Harden's got one of the highest trade values in the league.
So who? Okay, realistically, who would be your top mid-level exception target for the Blazers? Ibaka.
Ibaka, if obviously he accept it.
That'd be kind of dirty. Would you start him at the 4?
Probably, yeah. I mean, you probably have to promise him a starting job
but he's a good guy to put up against AD, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting just to see who the Blazers go after. Because the Blazers haven't had their full mid-level exception. They've only had their taxpayer for like a few years. So now it's like they actually have more free agent money to throw around and potentially be a player for somebody more than like a Mario freaking Hazonia. Because, my goodness, I can't stand that guy.
I also feel like, one, this opens up a roster spot. So I was a little worried about, we had 10 people under contract. We had a first-round pick.
How does this open up a roster spot? It was a 1-for-1 trade.
We gave up our pick, so we don't have to worry first-round pick being that. So we can see what's going to happen is a bunch of people are going to sign on Friday afternoon or Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And almost every team's going to use up their mid-level exception. There's like less than 5 teams, I think, that actually have legitimate cap space more than the mid-level exception. So I think those teams will target specific players and sign them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's still going to leave like 100 free agents that are basically going to have to take the minimum or not, or like, they don't have a choice. They have to take the minimum or nothing else. So I feel like with the open roster spot, we could actually get a good deal. Let's say like a DJ Augustine or like a cheap point guard or like whatever position we don't sign with the mid-level exception. I feel like it's possible if we sign Millsap, we don't even have to use the full mid-level exception. I mean, maybe like a 2-year, $14 million deal or something. You maybe have just enough money to sign someone for a little more than the minimum and be like, okay, here's a little extra for you or whatever. So, like, I wouldn't put it past some really good players signing for the minimum. I doubt a player like Harkless would, but, I mean, you could maybe squeeze out both a Harkless and a Millsap if the market's not there or the money dries up really quick for all these other teams. I don't know if Harkless would value coming back over, going to a contender or like another team. I mean, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't sign with the Clippers since they traded him away, and he was really mad about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make sense for him to stay on the Knicks. There's a lot of other teams that could use his services, but if you brought back a Mo Harkless, you basically replaced Harkless and added Covington, or you replaced Ariza and added Covington into your roster. So, because like Harkless in our system is probably pretty on par with what Ariza gave us. So,
yeah. I'm cool with Paul Millsap. People were sleeping on him, man. He didn't do well offensively in the Western Conference Finals, but he played great defense on Anthony Davis, and we need guys that can play defense and hit threes, and he shot phenomenal from the three-point line. Like, he would fit exactly what we need. Smart, veteran player, can make the right pass, can move the ball, can defend, played great defense on AD in the Western Conference Finals, and he was a 43% three-point shooter. Like, that's the type of player we need at the four. So, like, everybody's like, oh, he's so old. So he's still a very productive player. He had a very good season last year. I'm curious to look up his stats because I really feel like that's who the Blazers are going to go sign. He averaged 12 points per game, 6 rebounds, 1.6 assists, shot 48% from the field and 43.5% from three, over 80% from the free throw line. His true shooting percentage, for you true shooting percentage nerds out there like us, was 59%. He was very efficient last season, played solid defense, scored at a pretty high level. Per 36, he had 17 points per game, so, his minutes kind of got dropped off just because of his age to 24, but he still scored at a high clip. Almost 12 points per game and 24 minutes per game is a pretty good scoring line. So he would be a good player. He would be much better for this team than Carmelo Anthony. He would be a better starting four next year for this team than Zach Collins. Like, long term, not an answer, but we're trying to contend and sign him for a 1-year mid-level exception contract, and then next offseason, maybe replace him with another mid-level exception signing that fits the team. Like, I am cool with Paul Millsap. I would be happy. Blazers have been tied to him in the past, whispers about them trying to get him back like a decade ago. So,
and if you do sign him to a 1-year deal, since he's not our free agent, he wouldn't have the rights to veto trades. So, if it doesn't work out or he's declining really fast, we trade an expiring contract and look to pick up another player that fits better or something. There's really no harm in doing that. And the people who say he's declining or whatever, yeah, that's probably true, but you're just basing that off a little bit of playoff games, not if you just look at his season as a whole last year. He was great. And I feel like those same type of people want Jeremy Grant, who didn't shoot well at all in the playoffs either when you look at his shooting numbers. And it's actually surprising how poorly he shot considering how well people thought of him. But it's all because of defense. And if you look at the defensive metrics, I saw an article today on Twitter that said Paul Millsap was by far the best player guarding AD last year in the NBA. So that's something you can't quantify in a stat, but I still feel like he's a smart enough defender to provide us some at least 20 minutes a game. And we're so deep, we don't really need guys to play 36, 38 minutes like we had to have Melo and Ariza do a lot of this time. So it's not going to be like this year where we had all the injuries and, hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But
hopefully not.
We had Melo and Ariza playing way too many minutes. We shouldn't have taxed them so much. And I know Ariza wasn't in the bubble, so that didn't matter. But Melo, man, he'd be greater in shorter spurts, in my opinion. So the fact that we had to play him over 30 minutes a game was bad for both him and us. But yeah, if we have a bunch of guys and we just lost one of our older guys, replace him with a younger guy, I don't think bringing in an older Millsap is that big of a deal compared to what some people are saying it is.
Yeah. What would you grade this offseason if we went and signed Millsap with the mid-level exception, and then with the biannual exception, we signed DeMarcus Cousins to be our backup center?
See, he's going to be kind of controversial to sign. I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on him. If he's healthy, he could recoup some trade value possibly. And worst case scenario, if you sign him for the biannual exception, you cut him if he's a nuisance, but that's the kind of guy who could, be the difference maker off the bench.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If he's injured, here's what our lineup would be. It'd be Dame, CJ, Rocco, Paul Millsap, Yusuf Nurkic. Off the bench, CJ would play with the bench lineup, be the backup point guard basically, staggered with Dame, and you'd have Trent at the 2, Hood at the 3, Collins at the 4, Cousins at the 5. If Cousins got hurt, Collins could play the backup 5, and you'd slot potentially Nasir Little in as our backup 4. And I think Nasir Little could be serviceable. It wouldn't be like us playing Tolliver or Azonia like last year. I think, Little was better than those guys last year as a rookie. And I think like he's ready to play. Like we'll take another step up in production if he gets minutes next year. So, if he gets hurt, it's fine. Like that's the risk, but it's not much of a risk because I think we'd have guys ready to step in and we'd have our backup 4 can play the backup 5 just as well. So we wouldn't really be screwed. If he is healthy, he could be really, really good. And like he's a playmaker at the center. So Nurkic is passing. You could play Cousins off the bench and still have the passing from the center. Like that would be very intriguing. A lot of big names for the Blazers that they've been tied to in the past. Rocco, Paul Millsap, DeMarcus Cousins, like that we've talked about at length. It'd be kind of crazy to have just that name recognition on the team.
Yeah, that was going back to last offseason, once we acquired Whiteside, it was my understanding that they acquired him as a stopgap until Nurkic was ready to play. And then, are we lagging? Is that me?
We might. It might be you. We're lagging. First time of the stream. I don't think it's bad lag though.
Anyways,
hey, let me just say, bro. Thank you to my internet for not lagging in this stream until an hour and a half in. That's clutch. The internet's stepping up for me tonight.
Yeah, Anime J can't say that. But going back to last offseason, once we acquired Whiteside, I thought he was just a stopgap to get Nurk back and that we'd trade him at the trade deadline. I'm still disappointed that we didn't trade him and we would have had assets to possibly trade this offseason. But my favorite trade for Whiteside was to Minnesota for Gorgie Jang and Robert Covington. And it didn't work out, but at least we got Covington now.
We got breaking news. Milwaukee is landing Sacramento's Bogdan Bogdanovic in a sign-and-trade deal, sources tell Adrian Wojnarowski and ESPN. Very curious to see what they're giving up for him.
Wait, that's not fake Woj?
No, that's real Woj.
Okay.
So Bogdanovic to the Bucks. I don't know what they're giving up in order to make that happen, and I don't know how they agreed to a free agent sign and trade.
Mad. Yeah, this makes me mad because they shouldn't even be allowed to talk to Bogdanovic yet to see if he wants to sign there. So he has to sign off on that. So
they could get hit with some tampering charges for that. What would the tampering charge be? Because they're not supposed to. Yeah, they're not supposed to agree to any free agency deals before Friday.
All right. So last year, we had our stream. We went live like right before free agency started, but we pretty much knew all the signings already, right? Because people had agreed to it. So the NBA last year put in stricter tampering charges that were one of the things is they can void the trade or the signing. So if they find out that it was before free agency, they could just say, nope, sorry, you talked to him before free agency, you're not allowed to sign there. And they can also strip draft picks and fine front office executives and teams. So I don't know if they would actually do that. It seems to me like in this shortened offseason, they just decided to screw the rules and are just letting teams do whatever the heck they want.
Yeah.
But because otherwise, there's no possible way in a normal CBA timeline to work out a sign and trade before free agency already started, because that would be obvious that you talked to Bogdanovic already, and that's not allowed. So I'm really surprised that that's allowed to happen before free agency started, because the whole point of free agency and having a time where it starts is that so all teams have an equal chance of contacting that person. So if you're talking about signing a free agent and he's already off the market before free agency even starts, that's the whole reason for the tampering charges to begin with. So I'm kind of confused on why it would be like that.
I have a trade package. The Bucks are trading, and this is basically what I speculated. The Bucks are trading Dante DiVincenzo, Ersan Ilyasova, and DJ Wilson in the deal to the Kings. Now, let me do some math here. the Bucks aren't in the tax, right?
No, they're one of those teams that's like really close to being hard. Well, they will be hard cap now with the sign and trade, and they were really close to that. Keith Smith actually had this earlier because he was surprised Rolo opted out of $5 million.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought that maybe the Bucks were going to offer him a minimum contract and then take care of him next summer when they could pay him more.
Yeah.
Which is kind of illegal too, but I mean, no one's really going to care about that. So him opting out, I think, gives them just enough clearance. And then that wasn't them. Yeah, so they saved a little bit of money under the luxury tax line, I think.
I have a number that this contract could be for Bogdanovic. Given the guys are trading up and considering they're should be more than $5 million under the tax line, they can offer Bogdanovic up to about $18 million per year. So I'm wondering what they paid him, but the salary they're trading out with Ilyasova, DiVincenzo, and DJ Wilson is enough to be able to sign Bogdanovic for almost $18 million a year. I expect it to be somewhere up near that number, considering the Kings didn't really get that much value back for Bogdanovic. I mean, DiVincenzo is a pretty good young player, but I assume it's something. I assume it's something where the Kings didn't want to pay him like $17-18 million a year, and we're expecting him to get that type of contract and just want to get something back, and they get a solid young prospect in DiVincenzo who's pretty cheap. But I'm just wondering what the path forward is for the Kings.
I don't know. You would think if they were going to sign and trade him, they could get more from that, maybe a higher pick or move up in the draft or something. Mm-hmm. Especially if they're allowing trades before the draft happens, you might as well try to use him to move up, right?
Yeah.
Because he would have been good on like Golden State or something, and they could have fit him possibly into if you're talking about just a little bit lower in the $17 million range, they could have fit him into the trade exception possibly. But like Eric Olson said, the Bucks got fined last year when they announced they were offering Giannis a supermax, but now they're allowed to complete a sign and trade before free agency starts. And we understand that the trade can't be completed until free agency, but that's not the point.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I wonder if Sacramento's just trying to save money. If that's the case, then that makes it more possible for Portland to use the trade player exception to go out and get a Bielitsa and give a couple seconds.
Okay. I know what your answer is going to be to this.
What?
But we call about Bielitsa right after this trade goes down, right? Mm-hmm. They say no, right? But they say, we will give you Ersan Ilyasova for free. We have that $7 million traded plate exception. He makes $7 million. He'd fit right in. We give him the rights to whatever dude that's never going to come over here from the Minnesota trade last year.
Yeah.
So they're saying, Ersan Ilyasova, do you want him for free? We'll take the rights to that foreign dude.
I would take Ilyasova for free.
It doesn't. So people are saying no, sign Millsap. That doesn't preclude us from doing that. We could still sign Millsap, and then, like we said, have Collins be our backup center instead of backup power forward or whatever, and then Ilyasova would be our backup four.
I'll give you guys a CBA lesson. I'm curious to see if the viewership drops because now we're going into classroom mode and we're teaching. We're Professor MBA, Professor CBA. So traded player exception. We have about a $7.1 million trade player exception. That basically cancels out incoming salary that's less than the traded player exception. So if we trade for Ilyasova, who's making $7 million, we can use our $7.1 million traded player exception and cancel out his incoming salary. Basically, we'd be bringing in $0, so we wouldn't have to trade anything out to match, but we'd be getting Ilyasova since the salary got canceled out by the trade player exception. So that's what's curious about this is if they don't want Ilyasova at all, they could potentially give up Ilyasova for free to us just to get rid of his salary because they don't want him, and we could take him on for free without giving them anything back.
They'd save a ton of money.
And we need a backup four. And then say we sign Paul Millsap with the mid-level exception, right? And Zach Collins becomes our backup center. The only spot left us fill is our backup 4, and that could be potentially Ilyasova, who's a decent fit, I think.
On top of that, since they are allowing salaries to aggregate again, we could do that, and then we have a $7 million expiring contract that instead of having the trade exception that's only worth 7.1, you could combine him with the Mario Hezonja, who's also expiring, and then look at players more in like the $12 million range and make another trade like that. Then it could possibly, I mean, unfortunately, it'd be hard to trade another future first on top of what we got. But, you know, maybe there's some paths to bringing in a player that we wouldn't have been able to get otherwise in that scenario.
Because you can't use a trade player exception like salary. You can't, like, attach a $7.1 million trade player exception with Mario Hezonja as, like, salary. Basically, a trade player exception just cancels in salary that's less than it. So it won't cancel out a salary that's like $7.5 million since it's only about $7.1 million. It can only cancel out incoming salary that's less than it. But, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. If we went out and used that trade player exception to absorb Ilyasova, to bring in Ilyasova, then we could, as you said, potentially pair him with Mario Hezonja and combine his salaries, which normally you can't like combine a salary from a player you just traded for with another player, but the rules are kind of messed up this offseason. So yeah, we could potentially do that, and Ilyasova would be a good fit on our team next year, but we could potentially still be in the trade market, like after bringing him in with a trade player exception, combining him with a Mario Hezonja, which would be, let me do the math here, we would basically be able to bring in anyone making about $11.3 million or less, which would be very intriguing.
And that's when the rules, I thought that was going to kind of screw us because we don't have salaries to aggregate, but that kind of scenario, since we could do it in 2 weeks, that would allow us to aggregate salaries and get a higher price player. Kind of like that option now.
I'm happy that our
viewership
viewership...
a lot more trade opportunities than we had before.
I'm happy that we just went fully deep in on some nerdy CBA stuff and our viewership went up, bro. Because I swear sometimes when we get nerdy like that, people have no idea what we're saying and our viewership goes down. Basically, there's some creative things Olshey can do following up this move, and other stuff can still happen beyond just using the mid-level exception to sign like a Paul Millsap or something like that.
It wouldn't make sense to like trade again with Houston, but for example, PJ Tucker, who became available and is now obviously available. I obviously I don't want to give up another future first to Houston, but like just as him as an example. So he makes like $7.6 million, and our trade exception is not enough to get him. But if we use the trade exception for Ersan Ilyasova, then all of a sudden his contract matches him in a trade, and we could trade Ilyasova straight up for PJ Tucker. And that, like I said, that specific example might not be the best because I don't think Houston would do that, but that just opens up a little bit bigger trade window than we had with just the exception.
Yep, 100%. Man, tonight's crazy, bro. Tonight's crazy. I'm looking forward to seeing what else they do. I like that Olshey's at least being aggressive. We wanted him to be aggressive. We didn't want him to just sit on his hands and run it back, and looks like that's not going to happen, so I'm happy with that for sure. I think this team will be have a very good roster going into next season. I think people will continue to underrate this team. I think we'll for sure be a playoff team.
I wrote an article about the run it back scenario for the website that's now.
And I wrote an article about my ideal offseason, and the website wasn't able to get launched by now, which is completely fine because we could write about Rocco and the draft and, you know, losing the draft pick and stuff. So, sadly we weren't able to get the website out, but we're launching a website with like written content and all that. So if you Blazer fans are interested in that, just stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter. We got 3 Twitter accounts linked in the description. I'm at Torrey Jones YT, Torey Jones YT. Eric's at HoopsJock. The channel is at Blazers Uprise YT on Twitter. That's how you can stay updated with everything that we're doing, and that's how you can know when we're going live with our draft live stream. If you're not Blazer fans, you know, still follow me. I tweet about all NBA stuff, and I think I'm a pretty good follow. Maybe I'm being too cocky. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bad follow. I don't know, but that's how you can stay tuned and know when I'm going live, when we're going live for the draft live stream on Wednesday and the free agency live stream on Friday, because that's going to be fun because stuff just pops off
Zane, it's not subscription website. You're fine. You'll be able to read all our content for free.
Yes, we're not going the route of the Athletic. I'm not even really trying to make money. I just thought it'd be cool to make a website and have some writers writing, making Blazer content. So yeah, I shelled out $1,000 for that, and I'm not expecting to even make it back. It's not even about the money for that. It's just I want to have a website with written content and continue to grow the network and provide people that want to write about the Blazers a platform to do so. That's my whole thing with that.
Joseph Herrera, says, what are your thoughts on Kevin Love to Portland? Can't happen. We don't have the salary to match, and we're not trading CJ for him. So
yeah, we'd have to trade CJ to get him, and that doesn't make sense. Yeah.
And if you guys hear any more rumors about any player making more than $20 million now, it's pretty much not happening. We're not in the running unless it's an upgrade over CJ and it's someone we trade CJ for. But I highly doubt that. Neil wouldn't have brought in a guy like Rocco if he wasn't trying to make the Dame and CJ backcourt work. He knows that he has to bring in players like Robert Covington to give Dame and CJ the best chance to succeed. And he did that, and now we'll see if that's good enough or not. Najee's asking, when do players restructure their contract? They don't restructure contracts in the NBA. It's very, very rare because contracts are guaranteed. It's not like the NFL where they can cut you and you lose your whole salary if you don't restructure. But free agency for the players that are free agents starts on Friday. So like guys like Whiteside and Melo and Wendy and Gabriel are free agents for us. So if we want to retain them, we'll have to negotiate a new contract.
Shout out Jack M for the $5 donation. I appreciate it, man. He says Justin James is technically the guy we gave up for Trent Jr. in the trade. That is true. That was a great trade, that Trent Jr. trade. And I wasn't even a big fan of that move when it happened, but it's turned out to be a phenomenal trade. So we have some legit 3-and-D players now. That's interesting to say, because normally it's like, oh man, Aminu and Harkless are so mediocre from 3. At least they can defend though. And then this past year is like, bro, Hazonia can't defend, Melo can't defend, like Tolliver is trash. So it's cool to have some legit 3-and-D guys. I'll be back in 2 minutes if you want to solo carry the stream for a sec.
We talked about this earlier, but the CJ for Middleton thing is completely off the table now. I think getting Bogdanovich, I think, is their shooter / playmaker that they wanted. So I think CJ will be. I'm moving. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think the CJ for Middleton thing will happen now. I think the Bucks are committed to building around both Giannis and Middleton. We'll see if it happens, but Amar asked, what is going to happen with Hassan Whiteside? It's a good question. We have his bird rights, which means we can sign him to any contract without it affecting our exceptions or ability to sign other players. However, I'm pretty confident to say that the Blazers will not want to be a tax team next year. So if they re-sign him, it will be at somewhat of a value contract. And I don't really see that happening if they sign a guy like Millsap. I think they'll just let him walk in that situation, which is why I wanted to trade him at the deadline last year. We saw in the bubble it didn't really work out with him coming off the bench. You need guys who have a little bit more energy, I feel like, or more consistent off the bench. And it's hard not knowing if a guy's going to be engaged or not on a nightly basis. So I think this probably signifies that they might let him walk. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought him back, but I don't know. It's hard to tell what they're thinking on with Hassan and Melo. Kevin Reese says the money I donated half goes to you, half goes to Tori. No, I don't see any of that money. I don't really care. It's fine. Allison asked, would you rather have Aaron Baines or Paul Millsap? I would rather have Millsap just because I feel like since we have Nurk, power forward is more of a need, and Baines can maybe play a little power forward, but it would be tough to play both of those guys at the same time. Whereas Millsap and Nurkic would be a really good forward backcourt. I mean, not backcourt, front court, especially paired with Robert Covington right now. So I would rather have Millsap than Baines. If we strike out on Millsap, I wouldn't mind making a run at Baines as the backup center. But yeah, I would pick Millsap in that situation. And no, Houston fan, we're not trading PJ Tucker for CJ. That doesn't even make sense or work out salary wise. Carlos, yes, Covington can play the 4. He's kind of similar to Ariza, where he's can play either the 3 or 4. So it doesn't really matter.
Kind of
anime Jake, this isn't work, so I'm not. It's fun. Doesn't matter.
What's he trying to say when I'm gone, man? Come on. But I kind of wish we got PJ Tucker in this deal, man. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see what, like, I assume a team's going to trade potentially a first for him because teams just value 3-and-D guys so highly. Contending teams do.
So
Westbrook, I'll make sure to get you some of that too, considering how hard you've been working to moderate this crazy chat, bro.
Chris Stevens asked, how does the Suns trade affect Saric as a potential trade target for the Blazers? Well, he's a free agent as well. As long as the Suns offer him a qualifying offer, he'll be a restricted free agent. I'm assuming they'll offer him the qualifying offer. I don't know how much they'd be willing to spend to keep him. I mean, it's possibility at the 4. If we're going to sign him, though, I think I'd rather just try to trade for Bielitsa. I like his fit a little better than Saric's. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have a huge problem with Dario. It's going to be hard to get him. And since the Suns have the rights to sign him, it probably wasn't affected much by the Chris Paul trade. And in fact, it might make it more likely that they keep him because they lost a little bit of depth trading several players for one. But yeah.
I just want defenders. I'm eating Hershey's, bro.
Nice.
I'm too comfortable in front of 500 people eating Hershey's. But yeah, Sar should be interesting from an offensive standpoint. I just want defenders. We need somebody to guard AD. Like Collins, if he gets a little stronger and is healthy, is a decent matchup against AD because he has decent foot speed and decent size. But like I want like a Millsap or an Ibaka or something like that.
Anytime, Chris. Lewis asked, do you guys like Chris Dunn as an end of the bench cheap deal? Wouldn't be a terrible option just to get a defending point guard. He's not very good offensively at all. So I don't really like the too extreme one way or the other. I like kind of a little more balanced guys. We have Simons, who's theoretically going to be good at offense, maybe questionable on defense. It might not be bad to have a defensive guy there, but I just don't see a path to a lot of playing time. And I feel like he's going to get some decent offers from some teams that value his defense a little more, that have maybe a ball handling, like a team like the Clippers, who, you know, Kawhi and Paul George handle the ball a lot. They don't necessarily need to have a playmaker as their point guard.
Yep. Sorry if we missed your questions, by the way. There's so many questions being asked in chat. I do want to say this, bro. It's kind of surreal to like get players that we've been going after or tied to for so long. Yeah, like we wanted Carmelo for so long, and then we finally got him. I mean, some fans didn't want him, but like, you know, like Blazers were trying to get him and he didn't want to go there, and then he finally did. And like Roko's been a guy that we've talked about trade-wise I've talked about on YouTube for over 2 years, and now we finally get him. It's just kind of crazy. So just
going back to Philly, he's always, ever since we, you know, went forward with the Dame and CJ backcourt, he's been a guy that's seemingly would be a great fit with those guys in the front court. But I know a lot of people have given up on Dame and CJ working together. I feel like they haven't been giving a proper shot with a loaded front court with 3-and-D type guys. And if we do pull off Millsap and Covington and provide them with some 3-and-D type guys, and then also, I mean, Collins is a great defender. Nurk should expand his range out a little bit. Hopefully he starts hitting threes more consistently. That is, I mean, you're surrounding them with guys to hopefully make that successful. And I feel like it can work still, and I don't think we're as far behind other teams as a lot of Blazers media likes to portray. I feel like a lot of Blazers media, what they do is they constantly downgrade how bad our roster is so that they can prop up our coach when the roster does well.
That. They constantly act like our roster is worse than it actually is
Yeah.
what you meant to say, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like then when we get the third seed, they'll be like, oh, we overachieved or whatever. But, like, I don't know. I feel like we have a better roster than a lot of people give us credit for. And when we get to third seed, that shows you that it is a good roster. It's not just like that season wasn't because of injuries that we got the third seed. Like, we earned the third seed, you know.
And then we performed in the playoffs. We literally beat the 2 seed with Enes Kanter with a dislocated shoulder or whatever as our starting center, who's a terrible defender. Right. And Dame and CJ are terrible defenders, yet we still beat a team that's like a contention level team with that defensive backcourt being like poor and a very poor defensive center, missing Nurkic, who some would argue is our second best player, who's more impactful than CJ. So, yeah, I think this roster is going to be good. I think this is the best roster Dame and Stotts will have going into next season. I think it's better than like the Wesley Matthews, LaMarcus Aldridge, Nicholas Batum, Robin Lopez roster Dame had. I think this roster will be better. At least the bench will be far, far, far better than Dame and Aldridge ever had when they played together. That's the thing, is like, normally as Blazer fans, well, the Blazer fans in here will be able to relate. Fans from other teams, this is how we feel when Dame goes off the court. Oh my goodness. Well, we're up 10, so okay, Dame will come back in the game and it'll be tied. Yeah, 10. Like, okay, since we're up 10 when Dame goes out of the game, okay, well, when he comes back in, we should be tied, and then maybe we can have a lead by halftime. That is how we look at it. You know what I mean? Like, if we're tied when Dame goes out of the game, it's like, oh, crap, Dame's probably going to have to try and make up a deficit at the end of this half. That's how it feels like with how our bench has been for the past, I don't know how long, but Trent has stepped up. Hood, I think, will recover well from his Achilles. He's a shooter. He doesn't really rely on athleticism or anything. Those two wings are good wings to have off the bench. Collins is a big off the bench, assuming we sign like a Millsap or somebody. He's going to be better than he's ever been, and he's going to be ready. And then, you know, if we sign somebody with a biannual exception, you know, a Cousins or maybe like a Harkless, who used to be our starter, or you know, we use the trade player exception, bringing a guy like a Bielitsa, which would be phenomenal, or bringing a guy like Ilyasova. Like Trent, Hood, Ilyasova, Collins, like that's a really solid bench. I feel like that's a better bench than we've ever had, and it could be better if we go out and get a guy like Bielitsa. You know, that would be phenomenal.
And theoretically, if we didn't sign a Millsap, but we signed, say, Harkless, or even if maybe Hood comes back and is better than expected, sooner than expected, you could go back to starting Hood at the 3 and move Covington to the 4, and start a lineup of Dame, CJ, Hood, Covington, and Nurk, and then you still have a pretty loaded bench with whatever pieces you get for the rest of this offseason. So I'm pretty satisfied with our depth, but it was always going to be like we needed to be deep this year, or it was a failure. We lost a little bit of our future tonight just to upgrade one of those spots maybe in the starting lineup, but overall the point still remains that we should be 9 deep next year, and if we're not, I think it's going to be a failure from this point on the rest of the offseason.
Yeah. And here's the thing, if we decide to keep starting Collins, then maybe we go out and make that trade for Bielitsa using the trade player exception in future seconds, and then maybe we use the mid-level exception on a backup center like a Derek Favors. A bench of Gary Trent Jr., Rodney Hood, Nemanja Bjelica, and Derek Favors would be a top 3 bench in the league. Potentially even the best bench in the league. Maybe we bring back Hassan. Even like Hassan, I'd rather have Derek Favors as a backup center than Hassan, because I don't think Hassan will fully buy into that role. But even then, like the talent level with that bench, you have CJ running the bench unit as a backup point with Trent, Hood, Bjelica, and a Whiteside. You know, or maybe we don't trade for Bielitsa. Maybe we re-sign Whiteside and use the mid-level exception on a backup 4 like a Harkless. Trent, Hood, Harkless, Whiteside is a good bench too. You know what I mean? We should have the best bench Dame's ever had next season, and we should probably have the best starting lineup he's ever had, because I think Dame, CJ, Rocco, Collins, and Nurkic would be just as good of a starting lineup as he's ever had because those pieces fit around him well. I think Nurkic will be better than ever next season. I think Collins will be better than ever next season. So yeah, I'm excited, man. Like this team should be able to compete.
Yeah, I'm still disappointed that we don't get to talk about a draft pick.
I know you loved so many players in there.
I love the draft, but
yeah,
it's a small consolation.
I wonder.
I'm just being pouty.
Maybe they trade Anthony in like the second round pick and move back up into the first round or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Olshey loves Anthony, so I don't know. The thing is, we don't even really need another young player. We got Collins who's young. We got Anthony who's young. Gary Trent Jr. is young. Nasir Little's young. I want to bring back Wenyen Gabriel. He's underrated. He's young. Like we have a good young like group of prospects on our team already that play like every position. Like we didn't give any of them up in this Rocco trade. You know what I mean? Like I'm fine like long term with some of the prospects we have.
Yeah.
It's just sad though, yeah. I love that anticipation. At least we have a second though but that'll probably we'll find a way to get J Scrub.
I mean, like if we use our second pick and don't have to give up much or get him at 46, I mean that's not terrible. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I was trying to find it. I apologize for not seeing your name in here, but someone asked. Oh, here we go. Paulie Ross says, how would you feel about bringing back Aldridge? That's almost virtually impossible without giving up CJ this offseason now that we traded Ariza. He was our one contract we had that we could have aggregated with some of those other contracts, and we wouldn't trade Covington and pieces for Aldridge now. That makes no sense to trade like Covington, Collins, and Hood for Aldridge or something.
Yeah.
So, Aldridge is not going to happen this year unless for some reason they get bought out or something, which I don't see happening because there seems to be some interest from teams like Golden State in him. So Aldridge is a possibility next summer, kind of completing that circle back to the Blazers and signing for like the mid-level exception or cheaper next summer. But until that point in his free agency, I don't see the Blazers having any way they can trade for him right now.
If they use the trade player exception on a guy like Ilyasova, $7 million. Hood opts in $6 million. Hazonia is basically $2 million minimum. That would be $15 million of outgoing salary. They could bring back about $18.5 million. Like, that's the max
but
we
Aldridge
can do.
makes 24, yeah.
Yeah, because we ain't going to trade Rocco again. Like, we just got Rocco. We're not going to trade him. We're not going to trade Nurkic. Not going to trade CJ. Not going to trade Dame. So that's, like, the best we could do unless we, like, also attached Collins. But that makes no sense. It makes no sense to give up, like, Hood, Ilyasova if we got him, Collins, and Hazonia, like, all just for Aldridge. Like, that doesn't fit what we need either. We need defense from the 4 spot. Aldridge is a bad defender at the 4 spot now. He's also a questionable 3-point shooter. He only has like 1 year where he shot like over 35% on volume, and that was this past year. So who knows if he's able to sustain that? You know, like I'd rather have Millsap as our starting forward than Aldridge, even if we could get Aldridge for free. Aldridge is the better player, but Millsap is the better fit.
And I just want to give a shout out to Caleb Pendergraft. I don't know if you are a CBA expert from your own doing or because you're well-versed from listening to us. But so someone mentioned, what if I told you CJ was traded to Utah for Donovan Mitchell? And we got Caleb telling him it would be impossible because Donovan's on a rookie deal and the Jazz are up against the tax. Nice job, man.
Yeah, I'm very proud.
What's up,
dude.
Delano?
Our students, man, let's go, bro. We're good teachers. We're good.
Well, I don't know if he learned from us. I don't want to take credit without him saying that is the case, but good looking out, man. But Delano's cool. He's a Knicks fan, so he's throwing out crap here, but.
Brian Scalabrini, thanks for quoting some of these tweets, bro. He says, multiple league sources say interest in Westbrook is minimal. The Ringer says Rockets have been actively searching for trade partners for Westbrook, but that marketplace is proving relatively barren. That's not a surprise, man. Anybody who says Westbrook is better than Dame, just the trade market for Dame would be insane. There is like no trade market for Westbrook, man. There's your proof on how GMs feel about the two.
Hey, so... You know, you wanted George Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So Carlos just made me think of this when he said, I think you can get George Hill cheap from New Orleans, but we talked about how that was pretty much impossible.
Yeah.
But if you did the trade for Ilyasova,
then you could immediately trade Ilyasova for George Hill, and
yeah.
that would match salary since we'd be under the tax, and we could bring in like I think up to $5 million, and the difference is like 2.8 million. So yeah, like that's the thing. That's why I think we need to use our
having a vet point guard that shot like almost 50% from three last year. That's like Steph Curry a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Like
then maybe Hood plays the starting three and Rocco plays the starting four, and you have like George Hill as our guard off the bench, and Trent plays like the backup three behind Hood, and Rocco plays the four or something like that. That could be interesting.
Yeah. I just like the versatility. I know New Orleans has. I think never mind. I'm pretty sure they're gonna. I forgot it was a non-guaranteed contract. I was going to say Darius Miller, I think, makes $7 million too. Like if you just wanted someone for free, but I think he's on a non-guaranteed deal, so I don't know why we do that. But yeah,
we could. Let me do them. We need to use our trade player exception to have like the best possible off season, in my opinion. If we used it for Bielitsa, I wouldn't even try and trade him. If we used it for a guy like Ilyasova, I would definitely try and see if we could upgrade that. But like, we could bring back. If we used our trade player exception and took Ilyasova for free, which I think might be possible, I think Sacramento might not even want him. They have a logjam in the front court, and he was just thrown in to match salary for Bogdanovic. Then we could then use the trade player exception to absorb Ilyasova without sending anything back. Then we could turn around and use Ilyasova in a trade and bring back $12 million in a trade if we use Ilyasova. We could wait to pair him with Hazonia on December 5th. After that, we could pair him with Hazonia, and we could bring back like $14 million, right? So I think that we should try and be creative like that. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe you could go after guys like a Serge Ibaka, and maybe like you shouldn't plan on it because it's very hard to work out signing trades, but maybe that's like an option.
Apparently you can just do it whenever now.
Yeah, what the hell? But like, if we made that move for Ilyasova, then like we could potentially sign a free agent for up to $12 million and see if we could sign and trade an Ilyasova and like a couple second round picks that we'd still have for maybe an Ibaka or something like that. So that's the thing is like Olshey he made this move. He needs to be creative now. He needs to make use of the trade player exception and try and like get like at least an Ilyasova. I want Bielitsa on this team. Having 40% 3-point shooters off the bench would be phenomenal. Next to like a Collins and a CJ, that would be phenomenal. But if you can't get Bielitsa, go get Ilyasova with the trade player exception. Then you can use his contract and try and be creative in making things happen. Maybe it's a sign and trade, which is very, it's hard to pull off, but it would be an option that could potentially happen. Or you can still be on the trade market with a contract that could bring you back $12 million in salary via trade. You know what I mean? So like I hope we're creative, and I hope he makes use of that trade player exception.
Yeah, I completely agree. TRX Z Killer thinks he's really funny. He says sources say Dame does not get out of the first round. He's been out of the first round 3 out of the last 7 years. So
this guy's just fun to just continuously put in timeout like a little kid that keeps throwing a tantrum, bro. I like using the band hammer every now and then, and he's the number one recipient of it this stream. What about Joe Harris? Joe Harris would be intriguing, but I feel like we don't really need him. Like, I'd rather go out and get a 4. I'd rather have Rocco at the 3. I think that matches up better against LeBron. And if Rocco's playing the 3, here's how the rotation sorts out. Dame is starting point guard. CJ is backup point guard. You stagger them like they used to. CJ's starting shooting guard. Trent's backup shooting guard. Rocco's starting small forward. Rodney Hood is backup small forward. So we have point guard, shooting guard, small forward covered right now with this roster without even doing anything. So it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense to bring in a guy like a Joe Harris who's like a shooting guard or a small forward when we're already kind of set at those positions. We need big men because right now we got Collins and Nurkic, and that's about all we have at the 4 and the 5. So we need to go and get like a Paul Millsap who can play power forward, and then maybe use the traded player exception on like a Bielitsa who could be the backup power forward. Or something like that.
Yep. And then Q3, I have news for you. Lakers aren't running it back because they've already made a trade. So that's not possible.
Yeah. Yep. Is Aaron Fentress complaining about this trade? Of course. Like, bro, I don't want anybody that's complaining about Olshey never making a move to complain about this trade, bro, because this is exactly what they want, right?
Yeah. Shervin says Olshey haters in shambles.
Yeah.
What's up, Josh Sargent? We already discussed that with the Bucks getting Jrue Holiday and Bogdan Bogdanovic tonight. There's no way they're trading Chris Middleton, so that ship is out the door unless they some reason like just struggle mightily this year or something.
That's an interesting starting lineup. You got Jrue Holiday, Bogdanovic, Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. At least they changed it up. Defensively, that team should be phenomenal. We'll see how Bogdanovic plays in that situation. I feel like Bogdanovic will be even better. You look at like how efficient Malcolm Brogdon was there, then like his efficiency took a hit when he ended up in Indiana. I expect Bogdanovic to have a really efficient season next year. And he's a guy that they can give the ball to that can make stuff happen. I also like Jrue a little bit more as a shot creator than Bledsoe. I just think they gave up way too much for Jrue. Yeah. That's insane.
Yep.
But here's the thing. Either they keep Giannis and they're going to be contenders and those picks are going to be really late, or they lose Giannis, go into full rebuild mode, and those picks are probably protected and they get to keep them if they're early. So it's not like a huge deal giving up some firsts, but 3 firsts and 2 pick swaps is a ton for Jrue Holiday, especially when you're giving up decent point guards in Bledsoe and George Hill.
Yeah, I felt like he was worth maybe a first or 2. I mean, New Orleans got him for 2 firsts, I believe. One was like the 6th pick, I guess, which Philadelphia took Nerlens Noel. And then they got the pick that I think they traded back a couple spots and got Dario Saric. But yeah, that seems like so much to give up. Al-Farouq Aminu for 3. We've talked about that for like an hour. But welcome. Yeah, I'm assuming Jrue will pick up his pair option though, so it's not that risky. Sorry guys, I'm trying to keep up with chat, but it's going really
I muted
fast.
my mic because I was typing and I felt like people don't want to hear that. I'm just tweeting something now. We just don't need another perimeter player, and that's what I'm tweeting out because I'm seeing like Chad doing say we need to get another wing. We don't need another wing.
See, this pisses me off because yesterday this morning he was going at you, right? Because he was whining about Blazers offseason. Nothing like blank page or whatever, and then the day before he's tweeting out, Blazers need to make a risk. What they actually do, sign someone like Jay Crowder for the MLE and call it good, Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, like, so they make a big trade and you're still freaking complaining about how they still need to make more moves. That's why those people never satisfied. It's like people who make like $1 million but they spend it all and then they never have money because no matter how much money they make, they could get a raise to $2 million and they'll just spend that, right? Mm-hmm. It's those people like are never happy with what they have and they can never plan for anything or build anything because they're always just wasting whatever they have and like it's never good enough and they're always trying to get more. It's just like you pull off a trade like this, that's about as good as you can get with Ariza and a pick. Like you can't get much better than Covington for those assets. So like we weren't going to get like we couldn't get salary-wise anyone like a Chris Middleton or a Giannis or whatever. So, like, that's about as good as we could have hoped for with those picks in that situation. We just saw Jrue Holiday got traded for 3 firsts and 2 pick swaps. That's almost like 5 first-round picks potentially he got traded for. Like, it's crazy to me that people are still saying we need to, like, Olshey did something finally, but that's not enough. Keep doing more. Like, whatever.
So there's a report. I don't know how trustworthy this report is. Rockets only have interest in Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant in any deal for James Harden.
I saw that, yeah.
Bro, but would you trade, like, Kyrie for James Harden? I wonder.
If I was the Nets, 100% I would trade Kyrie for Harden.
Who knows if Kevin Durant would be down with that? That would suck for Kyrie, bro. Kyrie's like, yeah, KD, we're going to go play in Brooklyn. You're going to be out for a year, but then next year it's going to be our time. And then he gets traded for Harden. But yeah, bro, people love to complain about Olshey and love to defend Stotts no matter what. That's the thing I've never understood about Blazer fans. I understand if people like Stotts, okay? I understand why people would like Stotts. There are some good things about his coaching. I understand why people would be upset with Olshey for not making enough happen. I've said he needs to like make stuff happen. He needs to get creative and make some moves. But it's like, I see people that criticize Olshey for not taking a risk and not making moves. And then he does this for Covington, which is exactly what they're asking for, exactly what they want, and they still criticize. And it's like they're contradicting themselves. And that part of it just doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, what? They shouldn't stay at 16 and draft another player while Dame's in his prime. So we trade it and get a Robert Covington back who's 7 years younger. Ariza's 36. We can't go into next season with a 36-year-old as our starting small forward. So we get 7 years younger and use our pick on a veteran. And like, oh, well, like, he's still, like, Olshey still sucks. Like, I don't know. It's just like stupid. And then I can't wait for the excuses when Stott schemes we're still like last in defense and last in assists and we have no ball movement and our offensive genius is still doing that and these guys are still blaming the roster when we're like 9 deep and have really good players. But yeah, it's just so frustrating. It's like I hope you guys like respect that we try to keep it real and like we're not. I don't think Olshey's great. I think he's better than most people think he is given credit for. Agreed. He's done a lot of bad things. He's done a lot of good things. I don't think he's awful or like the worst GM of all time and all that kind of stuff. So, like, I mean, it was possible he could have if he screwed up this offseason. But, like, he's made moves since Paul Allen died. Like, 2 years ago, he brought in Curry. He brought in Cantor. He traded for Hood. Those were all good moves. He signed Dirk to a great contract. And then last season, we were already like kind of shot for the season without Nurkic most of the year. So he made a risky move to get Hassan Whiteside, but then it doesn't work out. So people are like, oh, he never takes risks. Well, that was a risk to trade for Whiteside. And like, it didn't necessarily work out. But like, I mean, he made moves last summer, like whether you think so or not. We got rid of all our expiring contracts pretty much. And then he makes a move, which was a great trade for Ariza and saved some money. And there's a reason why we have that trade exception right now. We got a guy like Wyndham Gabriel, who's, if we resign, can be like basically one of our draft picks that we gave up tonight. Because we can keep developing him, and I feel like he's a good energy guy off the bench as well, and a good guy who doesn't need minutes but can come in if we ever need him because of injuries or foul trouble or whatever.
I mean, we got Gary Trent Jr. in a phenomenal draft day trade. Like, I know that's a draft move, but that was a phenomenal move. Like, he's made good moves the past 2 years, right?
The only thing I can complain about is the thing you always say is, like, around the fringes, the Mario Hazonia, Mario Tolliver, or not Mario, Anthony Tolliver.
You might as well call Tolliver a Mario, though.
Mario Tolliver and Nick, whoever else we signed. I can't think of someone else's name. Someone Stauskas. Who's another name? Those kind of signings haven't been great, but those were always meant to be like 14th, 15th guys on a roster. Those guys weren't supposed to play that much this year, and it was just because we had all the injuries and stuff. But like, if that's the worst thing I can criticize them about the last couple of years, that's one thing. I still will go through this entire offseason thinking we should have traded Whiteside at the deadline still, and we should have thought more about our future than just making a run at the 8th seed. I feel like with the break in the action, we might have still made the 8th seed anyway. It was impossible to know that. So we were going to go on a hiatus there for a while. But I don't know. I feel like he's getting crapped on, and he's doing as good as he can do as a job, in my opinion, as putting a roster around him. And he still can make some moves this year. And like, it's not 100% like he's awesome, great, but like to want Daryl Morey to come in instead of him and like just tear up the roster and like completely change it, like that doesn't. You see what the Rockets ended up with when he did that last year. So I just don't think just making trades to make trades isn't always the answer. And we make a trade and then people want to make another trade right off the bat and stuff like that. Yes, it's good to keep building your roster, but it doesn't have to be constant moves. And you see all these other teams making trades and then they're like, oh, we're regressing or falling behind and stuff, which is like, how are we regressing? Like, I heard people say that today. Like we're not getting worse. We're getting better because we got healthier guys next year. It's just, sorry to rant and not let you talk, but
no, you're fine. The part that I hate is like people that want them to take risks, but then if the risk doesn't pan out, they criticize the move in the first place. Like if you want them to take a risk, what's the definition of a risk? It's something that could work out and be very rewarding, or it's something that might not work out at all. That's a risk, right? So if you want them to take risks, you have to be okay with both the upside and the downside, because that's what comes with taking a risk. So I can't stand the people that like they want them to take a risk, and then then Olshey takes the risk that they want, right? But then if that risk doesn't work out, they criticize it. Like it wouldn't be a risk if there was no downside. So you can't sit there after the fact with hindsight bias and say like, oh, that was a bad move in the first place because he took a risk and because it was risky, it didn't work out. When in the first place you were saying you want him to take a risk. That part doesn't make any sense to me. That's something that kind of drives me crazy.
Yep. And it always comes back to 2016 for people. And Rich Vilach says Olshey has been good since 2016. So here's the deal. The thinking that summer was the year before, we didn't have contracts to trade. Everyone was on like their rookie deals and stuff. And if a star became available, we didn't have a way to match like $30 million in contracts without sending out like 10 players. And that's pretty much impossible to do with the CBA and roster restrictions and all that kind of stuff. So, like he signed some of those guys a little overpay to have the salaries, and he said this at the time, like we need salary to match in trades. And yes, it just so happened like on pretty much all those guys, with the exception of maybe Mo Harkless, didn't perform to the level of their contract. So they like Myers Leonard showed some promise. He was coming off like a 50, 40, 90 season. And, regress shooting wise a little bit overall. Wow, we got Reed Newcomer in here. Jeez.
Whoa. Been a long time no see, man. What's up?
And then, Evan Turner was a horrible contract. Like Harkless, I felt like was fair value. Crabbe, we matched a salary, and Paul Allen really wanted to match it. So, I mean, yes, those were all bad, and it wasn't good. And he wasn't able to trade those contracts because, like, if you think Myers is going to take the next step and he doesn't, then all of a sudden he's not tradable, and like the contract's bad instead of maybe having neutral or positive value. And so, like, he makes the moves and it didn't work out, but now that they're all expiring and people are like, oh, well, he got nothing out of all those contracts. Well, sometimes it's better to just let them walk. But now, instead of getting nothing out of it, he turned one of those expiring contracts into Bazemore, and then he turns Bazemore into Ariza, and now he turns Ariza into Robert Covington. So without those contracts in 2016, we might not have Robert Covington tonight. So, it all comes full circle.
I heard people talking about, like, and this is a radio guy who's supposed to know his stuff about the team, but I heard Mr. Chad Doing talk about, oh, we ended up with nothing from those contracts from 2016, when in reality we traded Evan Turner for Kent Bazemore for Trevor Ariza for Robert Covington.
So he muted you, but someone needs to at him. Looks like we did get something for all those contracts in 2016.
Man. Yeah, I'm not gonna blast him.
I know, I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
Reed wants you and Chad to fight. That'd be a pretty good fight.
I don't wanna hurt the man. But yeah, no. Follow me on Twitter if you guys want to. Twitter. I get a little feisty on Twitter. It's all in good fun for the most part. Tori Jones White T. Eric is at Hoopsjock. and our channel is at Blazers Uprise YT. And we will be, I'm sorry for plugging this for the people that are watching this a ton, but we keep getting a bunch of new people in here just like cycling through. We will stream the draft on Wednesday. We'll have good graphics for that. So we'll go live 6:30 Eastern time, 3:30 Pacific time, since the draft starts at 30 minutes after that. We will go live and we will cover every pick. We'll cover every trade. We might go live a little bit before that if trades start popping off. And we will stream the first day of free agency as well on Friday, and should have decent graphics for that as well. That is the plan. I'll catch you later, Reese.
Where are you going, Reese?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's Reese's bedtime.
That's
Ramen says Blazers suck. I think ramen sucks. So
another good one.
It's fun to deal with the trolls. And it's fun to deal with like new people in here that actually like what we're doing. It's always good to see. So shout out Lore Hooks. He says, I F with the content, guys. Appreciate it, man. Reese says, I'll stay. Never mind. Screw homework.
You can do homework while you're listening.
Yeah, dude. We'll be background noise. I'm okay with being background noise for you. Yeah, shout out to all the OGs, man.
Shervin's in here.
Tony says Blazers got Covington. Yes, Blazers got Covington about a little over 2 hours ago, 2.5 hours ago. It's already 11 p.m. Jeez.
Gray Hughes comes in and says, "Hey, 460 watching. That's got to be a record." Well,
Gray,
earlier had like 1,200.
Yeah, we were popping off earlier. Gray, it was insane, man. This would be a record, but we like quadrupled our record. Yeah, this stream has been a lot of fun. This has been the funnest, biggest stream by far. Like, it's not even close, bro. This is insane, actually. My voice is starting to like go, so I'll probably have to hop out soon. But it's just like, bro, I don't know how long we should stream for, because like, bro, how do I log off a stream when I have 400 people watching? You know what I mean? That would have been a record going into today, and now it's like, oh well, we went from 1,200. We still got 400 people watching. I can't log off, man. So I'm going until my voice is done, probably. But my voice is starting to. I don't know if you guys can tell. I don't know if you can tell, Eric, but my voice is starting to leave me. It's starting to. I can't lose my voice on Monday and have it like affect me on Wednesday. You know, I gotta be able to perform on that draft live stream. So, man, my poor voice. I need something. I need a Google rehab. I need to Google like something to help me out, because I feel my voice starting to leave. Shout out Grey Who's for the $10 donation with the super flying sticker thing. I appreciate it, bro. Appreciate all the support you guys give us. Yeah, we'll take a few more questions.
Blazers causing panic says, "Man, you guys need a guest that really knows about basketball." I wonder who that could be.
Who said that?
Blazers causing panic. I don't know.
Weird.
So Peter Barricat asked, should we get Eric Gordon or Jeremy Grant? Eric Gordon's impossible for us to get, especially now. He signed up for
Aaron or Eric?
He said Eric Gordon.
Oh, so Eric Gordon. Hell no.
I'm assuming that's Eric Gordon. Yeah. So
I don't want to pay that man $20 million a year for the next 4 years. That contract was terrible.
But yeah, we don't have contracts to trade out for either of those guys right now. So thankfully, got Covington instead of Aaron Gordon. So that's a win in my opinion.
Man. Yeah. If we trade like Ariza and Collins for Aaron Gordon or something like that, that would have been disgusting. But do you guys go over the Chris Paul trade and what it means for the Western Conference? We did a little bit. We'll stream tomorrow night over on our streaming channel, Blazers Uprise Live. That's where we stream like on off days. Here's the link for that streaming channel. We're going to stream there Tuesday and Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time. So tomorrow and Thursday night at 9 p.m. Pacific time, we'll recap the draft over there. And that's kind of just our second streaming channel that we do like twice a week streams on. So here's the link if you guys want to go subscribe to that.
Later, Maneater.
See you later, man.
Don't know where you're going.
What do you guys think about Mike Richmond, host of Locked On Blazers? I don't really know much about him. I haven't ever listened to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the former beat writer, right?
Yeah.
For the Oregonian. But
I don't know. The thing is, if I'm like, I don't know much about him, that's a more positive view than like anybody else in Blazers
right.
media, because I'm not a fan of much of the coverage and the people that cover the team. I mean, I was beefing with Chad doing like earlier this morning. So if you want to see me beef with Blazers media members, follow me.
Isaac Thomas asked, do we still owe Festus Ezeli and Anderson Varejao? We do still owe Varejao, but not Ezeli. That's over.
Yeah.
But that was only like we owed him $1 million and we spread it over 3 years, so it was like $333,000. Yeah, but we still owe Andrew Nicholson for several more years.
Yeah, and how much do we owe him per year? Like 2 point something.
2.6 or something like that. Yeah.
I don't know. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really. Don't ask.
Soft Vic.
Yeah, let's not go there. Let's not go there right now, Sotvik. How long do we have Rocco? He has a 2-year contract. Blazers causing panic. Yeah, no thanks, bro. I'm actually surprised you actually clicked on one of our streams for once. That's a step in the right direction. I think we got it. I think we got it covered. I think we're doing. Yeah, it has to be. I think we're doing a pretty good job. I mean, you usually see the talking about the streets and all that. Yeah, it definitely is.
What's up, man?
You signed Melo for $1 million. He gets you to the playoffs, and you don't even mention him. Dame got us to the playoffs, but yeah, go Melo. He would look great in a Knicks jersey.
I still think there's a chance we could bring him back.
We need defense. We need defensive players that move the ball and like aren't ball stoppers. So that Melo doesn't really fit that. It's a cool story. I like that we kind of rehabilitated his career. I feel like people fall in love with too much with the story though. Like I want to win, so I'm not like big on necessarily bringing him back. I'd rather have a guy who can defend. Like we need to have the best personnel, the best defensive personnel around Dame and CJ in order to contend, in my opinion, and Melo just isn't the best defensive personnel. Big Virgil says, WTF just woke up to this. You a Rockets fan or a Blazers fan? Because he said no. I really want to trade Anthony for a pick in the 20s. I like a lot of the players in the 20s, man. Like I wouldn't trade Anthony for a pick in the 20s, though. I wish we had more seconds and could potentially move up into like the late 20s because there are some good prospects in that range. Yeah, it kind of sucks. It kind of sucks not having our 16th pick, but we know so much about the draft that would be fun to stream it anyway. Big Virgil, yes, it looks like it, bro.
Adam asked, what's your thoughts on Willie Cauley-Stein? I'm not super high on him anymore. I don't think he's a good fit on the Blazers.
He opted in, too, for like $2 million.
Well, I don't know. There was conflicting reports. They said he was opting in, and then later on they said he decided to opt out after all or something. So I think he opted out at the last minute or something. But yeah, I mean, that's like a minimum contract guy in my opinion. So if you can get him for the minimum, it's fine. I just don't think he fits in well with this roster. Why are Gray Hughes investigates posts always hidden until you show it?
I don't know. Maybe it's his username. I don't know. Because nothing he posts is bad or anything. That's what doesn't make sense to me.
So Gray Hughes, they did have a college season. It just they didn't restart it at all. They just ended it back when the like stay-at-home stuff happened. So there it goes again. So yeah, they did have, most teams played their full season and then a couple games into the tournaments. So there was a lot of film on guys. It sucks you didn't get to see some of the big players like an Obi Toppin, see how deep he could take Dayton into the Final Four or whatever. But and then they allowed teams to have individual workouts, and some players chose to just have like group workouts and stuff like that in front of a bunch of teams. So yeah, it was definitely a more messed up process than usual, but teams did get the opportunity to do it. And in fact, you could probably talk to players a little more than you might have with like several Zoom calls and stuff versus just interviewing when they come in for a visit and then them leaving and going to another team. You could theoretically set up several appointments a day with each each prospect or whatever.
Yep. So Kevin Pelton has graded the trade for us and the Rockets. I can read that off. I'm dropping the link again for anybody who's new in here to our NBA channel. We have a general NBA channel that we've been dropping draft profiles on and want to do general NBA content for. So if you don't feel like subscribing to a Blazers oriented channel because you're a fan of another team, go ahead and subscribe to our NBA channel, so that's just going to be general NBA content over there. Also, I would say subscribe because we're going to be streaming the draft and streaming the first day of free agency. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Two biggest streams of the year, man. When me and Eric started this channel, our first two streams was a draft stream and a free agency stream. We've gotten so much better at streaming, so much better with just like some of the technical stuff and whatnot. Which is a year and a half, a year and a half difference between then and now, man. It's just kind of crazy to be like, okay, now we're finally got off-season content again, and now I feel like we're actually ready for it instead of just like, well, we'll see how this goes.
Later, Caleb. Have a good night, man.
So here's, I'll read this off. Kevin Pelton grades the deal a B+ for the Portland Trailblazers. Should I read the article?
Yeah,
it's a short little column. He says, Pelton says, Portland's regression from the 2019 Western Conference Finals to below 500 in 2019-2020 was almost entirely about the defensive end of the court. It was about injuries, too.
No mention about injuries.
Come on now. Powered by Damian Lillard, the Blazers' offensive rating ranked third in the NBA during the regular season, ahead of all four teams that made the conference finals. Yeah, our offense was worse in the playoffs than those teams because... coaching, maybe? I'm just saying. Let's see. Yeah, Portland.
Chris Stevens.
Portland dropped from 16th to 27th in defensive rating. We were 27th last year in defensive rating, dousing high expectations entering the campaign. The Blazers were even worse than that on defense, with Ariza unavailable during their run to the 8th seed in the seeding games. Portland boasted the league's best offensive rating in bubble play, but their defensive rating was 20th out of 22 teams. A full season from front court starters Zach Collins and Yusuf Nurkic, who were limited to a combined 3 games before play stopped and were evidently shaking off the rust in the bubble before Collins was shut down by another injury, will help. So he finally made a mention of we were missing our good defensive front court players, but he goes on to say, but the Blazers also needed to improve their personnel at forward, where they missed Al-Farouq Aminu and Maurice Harkless after both starters departed in the summer of 2019. Covington isn't a perfect fit in this regard, given that he's better as a help defender than in one-on-one situations. The Los Angeles Lakers were able to expose that limitation during their 5-game playoff series win over the Rockets. Still, Portland needs any kind of quality defenders it can get, and Covington will be a major upgrade. He's also a better offensive player than Aminu and Harkless, whose limitations there were an issue during playoff runs. At 29, Covington is an ideal fit in terms of Portland's timeline along Blazers stars Lillard, who's 30, and McCollum, who's 29. He's on a favorable contract that pays him like a fringe starter the next 2 seasons, part of the reason he's twice commanded multiple first-round picks. Maybe Houston traded 2 for him, and Clint Capella, I forget.
I think they got... Atlanta sent a first to Minnesota, so it was like 2 first, yeah.
Neil Olshey, the Blazers president of basketball operations, has zealously guarded the team's draft picks since giving up a first-rounder for Aaron Aflalo in a deal at the 2015 trade deadline. That probably made it easier for Portland to part with 2 of them now. The Blazers already have recent first-round picks in Nasir Little and Anthony Simons in their development pipeline, not to mention 2018 second-round pick Gary Trent Jr., a breakout performer last season. That's kind of what I said. Like, we have a decent amount of young prospects, so it's probably easier to give up a pick. So I agree with that. Let's see here. It's worth noting this move probably signals that Portland will move on from unrestricted free agent Carmelo Anthony after bringing him back to the NBA this time last year. I also said that because I think they're just valuing defense right now. With Trent and Rodney Hood as options at small forward, Covington will surely play plenty at the 4, leaving little room for Anthony in the team's rotation. Okay, I don't agree with that because CJ will be the backup point guard in my opinion, and Trent will play only the 2. Because here's the thing. Here's how the roster breaks down. Dame plays 36 minutes per game as a starting point guard. CJ plays 12 minutes per game as the backup point guard. CJ plays 24 minutes per game as the starting shooting guard, which 24 at shooting guard, 12 at point guard, give him 36 minutes per game. That leaves 24 minutes per game as the backup shooting guard for Gary Trent Jr. At small forward, you have Robert Covington and Rodney Hood splitting the minutes there. Now, you could probably play Trent a few more minutes and play some of them at small forward and play Hood a good deal of minutes, and you could split Covington's time between the 3 and the 4 potentially, but I don't expect them to play plenty of 4, quite like Pelton said. I think the reason they won't bring back Carmelo Anthony is because we're valuing defense for once.
Yeah, I mean, we traded for a defender. I guess that doesn't mean that all our moves are going to be defensive based. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised either way. I find it hard to believe that if Dame wants him to be re-signed, that we wouldn't at least try. But that's also why I'm kind of hoping that New York comes with an over-the-top offer, so it doesn't make us look bad for trying, but also he moves on. But
yep. So let's see if we can hit 400 likes. We're at 398. Make sure you subscribe so you can watch our draft live stream and our free agency live stream. Very excited for that. He graded Houston a B for that, which I would grade Houston higher than that. I'd grade Houston at least as highly as I'd grade us. I'd grade Houston a B plus because that's pretty good value, and you get a guy you might be able to get a second or two for. And if not, he's an expiring contract. So,
Tony, we still currently have the number 46 pick in the draft.
It's kind of backwards. We're used to having firsts and no seconds.
Yeah.
So what is Covington's height? I just got tagged in something on Twitter. He's 6. I thought he was taller than 6'7".
I thought he was like 6'7", 6'8".
Yeah.
With like a good wingspan.
6'7" is fine. I think he has a. Let me search his wingspan. I'm just kind of curious.
So here's the thing. So
7'2" wingspan is good.
Yeah, the part about being him being a bad ISO defender or whatever. I mean, it was against LeBron too. Like, let's not act like he got exposed or something like that. Like, yes, he's better off the ball than he is on the ball, but he's very competent.
And he didn't really have any. He didn't really have any rim protection behind him either to help him.
Right? Yeah, they had no bigs to. He doesn't have a Nurkic to bail him out, so he had to play up more pressure than he would have normally. So I think it'll be fine. I think that's overstated. Just like I think Millsap's decline was a little overstated too. Like he had a bad run in the playoffs, shooting the ball, but his defense was still fine.
Yeah, I mean players will like have inconsistent stretches. They'll have stretches where they struggle. I feel like people like if those stretches where they struggle happens in the playoffs, people overreact to them. Because I mean Millsap last season, like taking out the minute differential. Per 36, his numbers actually like were maybe even a little better. Per 36 from the year before to this year, it was 16.8 points per game 2 years ago, and then last year 17.2 points per game. His field goal percentage stayed at 48%. His three-point percentage went up from 37% to 44% if you're rounded. His rebounds per 36 went down from 9.5 to 8.5, not a big deal. His assists were pretty much identical. His true shooting percentage went up from 57 to 59%. So, like, he didn't decline last season. He just struggled a little bit in the regular season. Everybody's overreacting to it.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, some people hate per 36. I use per 36 to, like, take out the minute differential. Right? Because here's the thing. His numbers per game look worse, but that's because he went from playing 27 minutes per game to 24 minutes per game, right? So, like, I use per 36 to get rid of that minute differential and make the minutes even and see what his statistical production was with even minutes. That's why I use per 36.
Yeah, not a bad way to look at it. But, yeah, I mean, I think Millsap will be fine. And I don't know. A lot of players struggle in the bubble. A lot of players that don't normally struggle had like really good performances in the bubble. It was just like a totally unique situation that won't happen in real games. So other than maybe playing without fans will be similar, but you'll be playing in your home stadiums this year. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you know, Paul George was talking about being depressed, being there and stuff like that. Like, you don't know how the situation was for everyone. I'm not trying to give him an excuse or anything, because obviously at 36 as a big man, he's going to start declining, and he did show signs of that. But a few months earlier, he wasn't showing many signs of that. So, like, I don't think it would have been that drastic of a drop-off just in a few months. So, like, I don't think the playoff version of him is what to expect over the course of the whole regular season.
Yep, I agree. Any other questions? We'll probably log off soon, which is weird because there's so many viewers, which is just weird to log off with a ton of viewers, but my voice is starting to fade. We'll answer questions that haven't already been asked. Yeah, we know a little bit, not a lot. BCP. We know a little bit. We're realistic.
What did he say?
He said maybe you guys do know a little.
Just
not as much as Chad doing, but maybe one day. We are realistically trading up for any pick, correct? Says Nayland. I don't know. Have to wait and see.
HCP been okay through all this. I know it had to have been tough on you. I know early on you were kind of struggling with stuff. Hope things are getting back to normal for you.
Yep. I mean, it looks like we got a jam-packed schedule starting in December. That's the fun part about this is the turnaround is super fast. So, like, there's going to be Blazer games in less than a month. We get to see whoever we add this week in action in, like, less than 4 weeks in the preseason. Assuming there is a preseason, assuming we play guys in the preseason. Isaac Thomas says, what are your guys' thoughts on Pinwheel Empire? I really don't like Pinwheel Empire at all.
It might be the worst account on Twitter.
Yeah. They're very toxic to me. They're extremely toxic towards people that they disagree with. Which I know, like, people would probably say the same thing about me. There's my voice. Some people would probably say the same thing about me, but, like, I don't try to be, and I feel like I've gotten bitter about that. But the thing is like, they're toxic towards people they disagree with while also, like, complaining about anybody else who's ever toxic. You know what I mean? Like, they act like they're so... The vibe I get from them is just the type of people that, like... I don't know how to explain it. They act like they're nice, but then they'll be toxic if you disagree with them, if that makes sense. I don't know. Is there a better way to explain it than that, Eric? Like...
No, it's just like...
And they've pulled some shady stuff off that, like, I don't know enough about to really talk about, but, like, behind the scenes, I've talked to people, and it's just, like, they've been kind of shady.
I'll just put it like this. They have their very specific views on the organization, and if you don't agree with those, you're basically a moron and an idiot. Mm-hmm. And if you do agree, you can join their little cult and, like, complain about the people who don't agree with you together. Yeah. And mm-hmm. But, yeah, there's no middle ground. There's no discussion. It's either you think their way or you're trash and you get blocked, basically. Yeah. So I don't like people like that. I hope people can come to us with different ideas and stuff. I mean, there are times where we'll tell you if we think it's dumb or, like, unrealistic or whatever, but, like, for the most part, we try to listen to people.
Yeah, and we don't just outright insult people. Pinwheel Empire will just outright insult people over their opinions, which is something I don't like, and I try really hard not to do. Like, the only way I'll be like that is if somebody's like that to me. You know what I mean? Like, I try and make this a place where everybody of different opinions on the team can come talk about basketball, but, like, talk about it on a deeper level. I try and, like, provide just deeper analysis and be fair. Like, one of the guys I respect his basketball knowledge a lot is Jake Carey, and he likes Stotts, and me and Eric aren't great fans of Stotts, but he comes up with points that we see differently, but they're well educated points, and I respect his viewpoint. You know what I mean? And we have we have good basketball conversations about it, which is fun. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm cool with people disagreeing and whatnot. You don't have to agree with me. Like, we just try and present our viewpoint and present the reasoning for why we see things a certain way, and hope that people who disagree with us can respectfully provide why they disagree. Like, that's cool. I tell you guys to comment on videos all the time, even if you disagree. Like, my draft profiles, how many times am I like, let me know if you guys disagree and have such and such player ranked higher. Let us know why you see them higher in your viewpoint. You know what I mean? I just try and cultivate conversation. That's it. Instead of just trashing people.
You guys are idiots. Horrible breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, we get that, and that's always fun. But yeah. Shout out Shervins for the $2 donation. Appreciate it, bro.
What's up, Shervin? The funny part about that is, like, okay, even if so. We're both not high on LaMelo Ball, right? Mm-hmm. There's lots of people who are really high on him, right?
Yep.
There's no way to know who's right in that situation right now, right? They're like, he hasn't played a game in the NBA, so, like, you can't like yell at anyone. Like, I can't say that people who think he's going to be good are complete morons and idiots. I may disagree with their takes and how he's going to turn out and stuff like that, but like, there's no way of knowing who's right yet. So like, we have to wait to watch him play before you can like call someone out and say like they're the worst evaluator of all time if if they think LaMelo's not a top 10 pick in this draft or whatever. But that's the funny part to me is like, no one knows if he's going to be good or not. So like, if you try to tell us that you are 100% sure he's going to be like the best player of all time, like there's no way to prove that you're right or anything.
Yeah,
so.
it's just a wait and see game with him. Just a wait and see game with him.
I wanted to get to a question from Adam Smith real quick. Mm-hmm. So he asked about Moses Brown moving forward. I am like 99% sure that he is not going to be on the team next year. He was on a 1-year two-way contract. They did decide to have two-way contracts again this year, and the rules for them are a little different, and you can keep the players with the team. But we didn't even bring him to the bubble when it was basically free to bring him. And we brought Horde, so it wasn't like we didn't bring either of our two-way guys. So I'd be surprised if he's even on the roster, even as a two-way player moving forward. I would like Horde to be back on the two-way contract if possible. But yeah, Moses Brown, I think, is not going to be on the team. I don't see why they wouldn't have at least given him some practice time in the bubble if he wasn't part of their plans moving forward. Yep,
I 100% agree. We're going to log off soon. My voice is just kind of like gone. This stream has been crazy. By far our biggest stream, like by far, not even close, blown everything else out of the water. If you have questions that went unanswered, we will be streaming tomorrow night at 9 p.m. over on our second streaming channel, Blazers Uprise Live. I'd love it if you guys went and subscribed. We've been trying to grow that channel as well next to this one. We just like to separate our streams and our videos. This upcoming season we will do post-game streams, just like the first hour post-game streams over here on the main channel. But other than that, like our weekday streams, our random streams, everything else is over on that streaming channel. The link, I'm posting it in the chat, and it's also in the description. So if you guys have questions that we didn't answer during this stream, you can come join us tomorrow night and ask us. And there will probably be less than 300 people in there. It'll be a lot lighter, so we should be able to answer everything you guys have to ask us if you have questions. Also, let me post this link real quick. Also, subscribe to I've plugged this, but if anybody's new and hasn't subscribed to our general NBA channel, we have an NBA Uprise channel as well that we just started. I also posted the link in the comment section, and that link I have in the description as well. Let me do this. So that's like just kind of our other stuff. And you can always ask us on Twitter as well. At Torrey Jones YT for me. The link is in the description. At Hoopsjock for Eric. So you could ask us questions about Twitter. We'll answer questions about not just the Blazers, but other teams as well. We're general NBA fans and know a lot about other teams and whatnot. So if you have a question, feel free to hit us up and ask us.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't RIP Blazers like wanting to trade for Robert Covington a few weeks ago? Yeah. And always saying, like, why do we give up our 16th pick? We could have just given up one pick, like, complaining about getting him.
I feel like if we could have just given up one pick, we would have just given up one pick.
Yeah. I mean, Covington would have been a sought-after guy once he became available, so, yeah.
So, anyway, thank you to everybody who tuned in and made this the best stream in the history of our channel. This has been a lot of fun. We're streaming Wednesday. For if you've been watching this for a while, you might be annoyed at me plugging the same thing over and over again. But we, have had a ton of new viewers just cycling in through here. We're streaming Wednesday for the draft, all 60 picks. The graphics should be dope. It should be a really cool stream. I'm really looking forward to it. You should tune in. We're going to go live 30 minutes before the draft on this channel right here, Blazers Uprise. Make sure you subscribe to it if you guys want to watch that draft live stream. That'll be on Wednesday, going live at 3:30 Pacific time, 6:30 Eastern time, 30 minutes before the draft starts. On Friday, we will be streaming the first day of free agency, starting at 5:45 Eastern time, approximately, and 2:45 p.m. Pacific time. Basically, 15 minutes before
Yeah.
free agency starts, we
Unless
will
a bunch
go
of rumors
live.
come out beforehand, like last year, then we'll go.
Start times
early.
might be a little bit earlier if like stuff starts to pop off, but that's our general schedule. I released a video on this channel like a couple of days ago, just kind of explaining our schedule. So make sure you subscribe to this if you want to stay updated with those streams going live. Follow us on Twitter to stay updated. Thank you to you guys for you guys' support. Shout out to all the people that have been here. Shout out to all the people that tuned in and are new to what we do. Appreciate it. Yeah, big trade for the Blazers tonight. Big move. They go out and get a guy who we've been talking about for like 2 years as a potential trade target. That's Robert Covington, and we'll see how this move works out when the season rolls around in only a month. I can't believe it's that close to being done with the offseason. The offseason's just getting started right now, so looking forward to the rest of this week. Sorry I gotta go. My voice is dying right now. Been talking so much. So thank you guys for making this a great stream. We'll catch you guys later. For all you Blazer fans, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.